Good evening, B's, G's, NB's, Peens, Vagines, and in between. I come to you as always as Charles, otherwise known as SIPO. We're doing something a little out of the ordinary for this edition of Weekend Live. I'm joined to my screen right by Dice. Dice Roland, how are you?
We're okay. I think.
And
Yes.
so we have our LGBTQ woke quota. I can't speak. And to
I
our
will be
bottom,
speaking for everyone.
at screen bottom, the translator of sorts is Gray Poupée. Gray, how are you?
I'm doing good. A little intimidated by that intro.
I'm
I
sorry.
don't know that I'm a translator of anything. I barely speaking. But let's do this.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
Yes, and it's good to have you. So, for those of you who don't know where I head on Thursdays, it is that darn kiddish channel, and it's called Thinkers Doing a Think, and a lot of real life things get discussed. Sometimes less serious, and sometimes more serious. And it's kind of where I go to talk about serious stuff. Every now and again, there's something that I wouldn't call completely serious, but I guess the following topic would be considered that. So, Gray, can you explain what a quick summary of what Gamergate is before we get to Gamergate 2?
Sure. So Gamergate is a thing that happened almost 10 years ago. So it kind of sparked from this. Oh, wow. I'm big now. Awesome.
Double the
so it
intimidation,
kinda sparked,
buddy.
yeah,
No
just
pressure.
a little bit of intimidation. So it kind of sparked off of this one game developer's kind of personal relationships where she seemed to be in bed figuratively and literally with some game journalists.
Literally?
And literally,
Oh.
that's the accusation that there are
Oh.
quite a few have been confirmed, but it's always a he said, she said. That part's not so important, but kind of the reaction from that. A bunch of these journalists kind of banded together, if you will, because they're on the same side, and they wrote a whole bunch of articles saying like the gamer is dead and this is the death of the gamer. And then from there, it led to some other companies that kind of consulted on games and wanted to have changes done in games because games can be offensive, and we wanted to try and make them a little bit more inclusive, a little less offensive, and more realistic in some cases. So that's where you get like certain figures who kind of popped up on the left, like Anita Sarkeesian, figures like that. But that also spawned the anti-Gamergate side, which would be kind of more the right-wing thing. And that's literally where you get people like Milo Yiannopoulos. That dude came about because he was Breitbart's reporter on Gamergate. Without Gamergate, we wouldn't have had people like him. So it's kind of weird. It kind of brought out bad actors on both sides, but in ways, it really showed that like game journalists aren't necessarily independent, was kind of the big thing that came out of that. And it kind of sucks. Like we knew like in the music industry there was pay for play, like the actual record labels would pay radio stations and certain others to kind of promote their albums, to play it more. It looks like there were certain favors that were being had in the game industry as well, as kind of the 1,000-mile view of this. There's a lot of ins and outs of it, a lot of weird intricacies. There are a few tragedies that came from this as well, and there are accusations that link this kind of financially and in some names as well to this 2.0 part. But sorry, I was reading the chat. I'm kind of arguing with Vincent, who also is sometimes on the thinkers. But I like to rib that guy. But I think that's kind of like the overview of it. Was it just showed that game journalists aren't necessarily independent like we kind of thought. But it does kind of make sense. Payola has kind of existed in almost every industry. This just seemed to be like an instant where it was really brought to light.
So that is what, 2014 that really had its 2013.
It's almost 10 years ago to the month. The actual like anniversary is coming up real soon, but about 10 years ago.
Everybody get a drink.
So I'm going to tag you out and get Dice's perspective here.
Shit's
Dice.
fucked, man. Good
There
God.
it is.
That's it.
Weather
Thank
at
you.
11. So Dice, as a gamer and part of the woke crowd, for lack of a better term,
The Rainbow Mafia.
have you noticed a change or things like they're being catered to your interests?
No. No. I think from my understanding, which is granted rather shallow in this case, I wonder why. I've noticed that there's been a lot of talk more than actually implementing anything, but keeping in mind that most of the games that I play would be probably more indie. So I don't know if there's so much heavy influence of that in my little corner of interest. I play mostly horror games, of course. So you don't see a whole lot of, how was it phrased, forced diversity in that area of things, as much as, I don't know, big name multiplayer kind of games. With that being said, I'll still see things because of people I follow, little circles that I'm in. I'll still see people talking about certain things, and mostly it's to do with race or gender, but to a lesser degree with this version of Gamergate, I think. It just seems mostly focused on race. So
Oh, okay.
I'm just over here going, hey, cool. Still no non-binary characters. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So Dice, what is the most important thing to you in games?
That I like it, that I enjoy it, that it's got a good story, good characters, and I want to play it again.
Does representation have any sort of weight on that equation you just listed?
It's not so much weight. I think like if,
Value? I don't know.
some value, yeah, there's certainly some value. Like if someone handed me a game that was horror or perhaps even not, that had a non-binary character, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. What about the story? What's it about? Why should I care other than that?
Thank you. Right. That's kind of my point exactly. The TLDR version of what should be the most important thing to somebody who's using money to acquire entertainment. I don't know. Listen, granted, I'm sure there's people out there that their chief concern is representation, but it doesn't seem like the vast majority of people that are dumping money to play something. I don't think that's their chief concern is, oh, well, how many non-binary black lesbians are there?
With a disability.
Sorry, excuse me. Didn't want
With a disability. Don't forget that. That's important. Somewhere.
Represent ageism too while you're at it.
Oh, yeah,
so,
yes,
you know, who's a senior.
Sure. Or what age are they? We don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be. I mean, I don't know. I don't. It's Cody couldn't join us. He's a little busy. He's somebody who plays games more than.
He's more into the mainstream, which is totally fine. I can't keep up.
Right, but he's more active than us. I would say. I don't. Sorry to speak on your behalf, Gray. But he's got his game.
No, I'm for sure a casual at this point.
Yeah. So he's Cody Leach Game Chamber. So he has streams where he played Suicide Squad, which we'll get to in a minute. Gray, so with the recent happenings, do I play this video first? Do you want to set it up or?
I guess let's set it up. I think that's kind of, it comes after this thing blew up.
Okay.
So to kind of get us to today, we always knew that there were kind of these companies that are hired to consult on different things, like like almost every script of any kind, even in the game industry, would have notes on it or something. It's very rare for it to just be a one-person thing where person design, unless it's kind of independent. But these big games generally have multiple writers. I'm sure they have producers. I'm sure they get notes and everything. But yeah, there are kind of these companies that come in and consult and kind of give certain ideas to them, or the way that it's generally said is like, if you want to accurately represent some diversity, generally these companies will come in and give you a consultation on how to make it more authentic, which doesn't seem like a bad thing, but people are that it kind of stretches a little bit beyond that. And some things would kind of seem like it may stretch a little bit beyond that. So there are certain games that they are associated with Sweet Baby Inc. So the most recent one, and I think the biggest one, is the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, I believe is the full title. But that, it seemed like there were some agendas in there and some ways that the characters were portrayed that rubbed some people the wrong way. So I guess the thing that really kind of kicked this off is there was a user who kind of sorry, I'm trying to bring up the actual thing, and of course I think I closed that particular one. So there's a Steam so there's a Steam curator, there's a Steam group that this curator started, and it was called Sweet Baby Inc Detected Steam Curator Group. And so what he kind of did is he compiled any game that Sweet Baby Inc is given a credit for consulting with. There are other ones that aren't necessarily credited. There's supposedly quite a few more, but these are the ones that they have either taken credit for or are literally getting a credit for the writing in. So he just kind of made this list of all these games, and they generally are seen kind of unfavorably. And one of the I guess just an employee at Sweet Baby Inc happened to catch wind of this group and said that it is targeted harassment against them. So they went on Twitter and they did a tweet saying the Steam curator harassment group Sweet Baby Inc Detected is led by this person.
Oh, outed the person, huh?
Yeah, and he is very much out there now, and so the name is known, but it's Cabrutus Rambo. He's the guy who created this group on Steam that just kind of collected the games. There's also like a chat that goes along with that, and for the most part, it seemed kind of like people were just saying what nitpicks they have with these games. And then since it kind of gained steam, there's been a lot more kind of bad actors in there, and it's been closed down a few different times and reopened. I believe as of right now, it's still reopened. But this guy outed him, said it's led by this group. They're trying to be slick so they don't get reported. Even with discriminatory language filed off, the group itself fails the code of conduct. And then he puts a bunch of screenshots of how they failed conduct and then said, anyway, report the fuck out of this group. And then gave the link on where to report them, and then report the creator since he loves his account so much. And then another one specifically about this dude. So that actually got this employee of Sweet Baby Inc kicked off of Twitter, one of those temporary bans because he was dogpiling on somebody and trying to get them canceled. So that kind of sucks. The dude has recently come back to Twitter and he had an even more inflammatory tweet. So people are really after this guy. Yeah. But that's kind of the thing that kicked this off. So it seemed like he was trying to kind of take the limelight away, get this group taken away because they were kind of pointing out these groups and these games and saying this is the kind of, if you will, linking factor between these games that I don't like. He didn't like that they were drawing attention to that. So then it's kind of the Streisand effect, if you will. When he tried to get all this attention on getting that group kicked off the internet, it actually brought a ton of attention to it. As of right now, they have 252.2 thousand members in this Sweet Baby Inc Detected Steam Curator group. So they really did the opposite of what they were trying to do. I think they had like 2,000 at the time that he was going after them. So it's just like skyrocketed and really blown up in their face. So that's what kicked this off. And then from there, a bunch of people have been kind of looking into them. And then they've dug up a bunch of past things that have happened.
Yeah. So this Twitter storm happened recently, right? In the last month or so?
Yes. Sorry, I'm looking up the actual date of it.
And
of
while
course
Cody isn't here, I'm going to quote him.
Sorry, February 29th. So yeah.
Wow. Not even 2 weeks yet. That's insane.
On the leap year.
It's kind of the main part that blew this up. But there were certain sites and certain channels on YouTube that, they always kind of knew that these narrative people were there and kind of pushing this, as they call it, like DEI agenda onto these games and stuff. So I mean, like they've kind of been known about, but this is really what kicked it off when they tried to get that curator group kicked off of Steam.
Yeah, and I don't think Cody will hate that I quote him here, but when I asked him about Suicide Squad, because I know he was streaming it, he said Suicide Squad has got problems and the narrative is the least of which. So
I really don't like the character design, but I've only watched a few of the things, but it's like, that is not King Shark. He shouldn't have a tiny little shark head. That doesn't make any sense.
My brother, I haven't even really bothered to watch anybody play it. No offense. I just heard about it from my brother, unprompted, and he's a much bigger, like, Batman comic book kind of guy than I am. And of the many different vehement issues that he had with the game, I've never seen him really, really, really adore a celebrity quite as much as Kevin. I forget
Conroy?
his name. Yes,
the
thank you.
voice. Yeah.
Yes, Kevin Conroy.
Oh, the Batman.
Yes, he adores that man, and this game, I guess, according to him, was like his last bit of voice work as Batman before he passed. So
yeah, I think he did a little bit more voice work, but I don't think as Batman. So,
but my dear brother, bless him, hates every single person involved in this game for doing that to Kevin Conroy.
What, that work killed him?
Well, this was my point.
They kind of assassinate the character in a few ways.
I mean, among many other gripes, like I said, but that was the big overall thing where he was like, "Fuck this company." Like,
wow.
All right.
So wait, fuck the Sweet Baby Inc company, or
pretty much. He wasn't exactly too detailed about that. Just
do we know that they how much control they had over a game like that?
So no. So that's kind of the thing. So each contract is a little bit different, and they do different things depending on what company they're going in or what they're being consulted on. So they can actually help with character design. We don't know the extent of it in this game particularly, but they've done that in the past. They also Dev Short Fat Otaku, he had this one developer on. It's kind of an interesting interview. You can definitely go to his channel and watch it. But the guy was saying that in his particular company, when they brought in Sweet Baby Inc, they were actually made the head writer. So any changes or any ideas that they had to be run through them, or they would take a final pass at it and decide how this actual element will be presented in the game. But it's not clear whether they had that control over everything, or if they're just brought in, as a consultant to just give notes. Consultant producer is kind of a very nebulous term. It could mean a myriad of things. So it's really unclear. In certain games, they've had final say as to what is acceptable or not. And it seems, kind of advantageous to this company, because they're basically going into these guys who are somewhat out of touch and saying, this will make your entire company, your game, essentially cancel proof, or it is exactly what the youth is looking for today, which kind of sucks. I could see that being a pitch to them and why they'd want to take that on. It isn't necessarily that everybody is going with this super agenda driven ideology. It could be more, this is what they want, and this will assure me that my game is okay. Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's unclear what the actual amount of control they have in each one of their projects. And it appears to differ from project to project.
Right. I was going to say, it may be possible that they're simply helping them for marketing purposes, right? Just be like, oh, you know what? For advertising, you might want to highlight this aspect of the game because wider audience or something. The fact that we don't have the details of just how much they do for each game is kind of, I don't know, troublesome.
Disconcerting.
For sure.
So are we ready for this quote from Not in the Last 10 Days?
Sure. So because all of this blew up, so that Steam group created by Cabrutus was created on February 26th. So then on February 29th is when this one guy tried to get it taken down. So people have been kind of digging since then, and a lot of things have kind of popped up. One of the things is this 30-minute speech that Kim Belair, who is the co-founder of Sweet Baby Inc, she gave during the 2019 game development conference. So there's a few nuggets that people are taking out of it, but here is kind of the one thing that everybody is kind of saying, hey, this is them explaining that they're going to strong arm your company into accepting their notes, essentially.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups, and if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
That doesn't sound like...
It seems...
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely like overblown, I think, in the way that people are describing that particular statement, that it's showing like this mob or kind of strong arm tactic to, okay, if they say no here, then grab this other side of the company and explain to them what's going to happen. It's like, I don't know, isn't that what you do? Like, don't take no for an answer. Like, if this door is closed but you have an in with the marketing, okay, talk to marketing, explain it to them from a different angle. Like, it doesn't sound as damning as I think people are making that out to be. It sounds kind of like strategy, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being too, optimistic with my interpretation of it. But that seems to be the clip that seems to be like lighting the internet on fire, that like these people are going to force you to do their thing. If you say no in the development side, they'll get you on the marketing. And it's like, maybe, but if that's what they're brought in and they're told like, hey, I will make your game cancel proof. I will make it, the next hottest thing because it has everything that is hot that the kids want. Wouldn't marketing be a part of that? So it kind of seems like you'd still go to them, but maybe it's just me. I don't know. I could be giving them too much leeway.
No, I when I watched it, I felt like it was kind of, loose with the rhetoric. I mean, the other thing is it's done at like an industry convention, like, whether or not people end up seeing it, it's not really for your typical gamer. It's more for industry.
We weren't meant
folks.
to see this.
Well, I mean, saying that is really not going to help, but.
Well, and that video is available in its full. It's like a 30-minute speech that she gives on the thing, and it brings up sensitivity readers, risk assessment. Like, it goes through what their company does, and it seems like so it might be a bit of snake oil that like maybe we don't necessarily need all these things, but they are kind of buzzwords that are catchy, and if you could kind of guarantee a game to be cancel proof, and it's like, no, we will sign off that we made this authentic. You're not just like trying to jump on this bandwagon or whatever. I don't know. It seems like that could be a strategy that doesn't seem
plus
stupid to go after.
It's beneficial if you're in the business of being important to companies to make yourself seem crucial. I mean, you want to sell your services, so
show them your value.
Right. There's some sort of exaggeration with how important your company is to a specific anything, but
and this is like 5 years ago, but she opens it with like, we do narrative development in games and kind of beyond, and we try to bring inclusion, diversity, and new ideas to the industry. So it seems like there are a bunch of those kind of buzzwords in there, but it seems like that is kind of the way that some things are going. And then she does bring up sensitivity readers, and we need risk assessments. So again, if there is any possible offense that your game would give or inaccurate representation, they're kind of giving you that assurance that because we've looked into this, we're going to sign off on it. You have that added credibility, and you would have somebody to kind of throw this back on, like, no, we consulted with this company, they told us this would be authentic representation. So they're kind of offering you this shield. That doesn't seem like a horrible business strategy, but I could be wrong, and I might be giving them too much leeway.
Dice, is there a game that No, go on.
So I was going to say, I don't like the concept of sensitivity readers in general, saying like, this art that you created, it's a little bit too out there. We need to make it tamer. It's like, okay, is it still the same art? But I kind of know it from like the literary field. I've heard kind of the complaints there for a few years.
Yeah, anybody who
I don't know. Something as mass market as a game, though, like you are trying to get the most possible people. It's not like, I think novels aren't supposed to grab everybody. Like they are somewhat specific. It is a very personal type of art. So that I have a little bit of a different feeling on, but I don't know. Uh, Again, maybe I'm just giving them too much leeway, but the gaming industry is huge now. Like when I was a kid, you were a nerd and you were a geek and you were, not cool to get into it. It was very niche. This is now, everyone plays games now. It's interesting. So this is a different market than kind of I was used to.
Yeah, I feel like if you have enough money as a producer to hire a sensitivity reader, like you're AAA, you're a big deal. And it kind of is similar to big studios. Studios will make filmmakers redo something because, whatever. And if you're an independent film or an independent gamer, you don't have that luxury to be like, oh yeah, this isn't going to work with the 13 to 18 market, so we need to go and change this one thing. It just, how many times have you heard about the big company fixing something that ends up not really being the main thing, and the game or movie just tanks? Dice, is there a game that you could recall being offensive to you?
You mean in real life?
There's been some offensively bad games, but
True.
Yeah, bad is bad.
yeah.
There was. I recorded this at one point, but decided, I don't think this is gonna work for the channel. It's not the genre. There was a game, still probably is, where you play a literal piece of shit, and I was not offended by that. So no, not really.
Okay, yeah,
Fair enough. I mean, I remember like Toe Jam and Earl back in the day, and
Wow.
like Ren and Stimpy had some pretty offensive games and stuff.
My brother.
That
even-
seems like the next progression.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Originality. Wow.
I think there was a Mr. Hanky game from South Park at one point
the
too.
Christmas poo.
I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
But my brother
yeah.
even tells me about.
Cody says Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Offended me that it took $99 out of my pocket.
That's fair.
That's
That's fair. And your time, sir. There is a game I
Cody.
know, at least one, and I forget the name of it. I'm sure my brother could tell me, but he's told me about it originally, and it's I think it's Postal.
Boogerman.
Oh yeah.
Is the game?
Postal was
Shooting game, right?
crazy back
Yeah.
in the day. That was like the most
Banned.
offensive game back when it was released. Yeah, I remember Postal.
Yeah.
That one was quite over the top with its violence. It was great.
I mean, the GTA series. I mean, from the
Historically.
first
It
one,
corrupted the youth.
right? Right.
We're all criminals.
But I could recall, as the two most recent ones, 4 and 5, of the bigger ones. I know there's other like side games and online things, but they do a fantastic job of just mocking society, and it's not like a right wing, left wing thing. They do a really good job of making everybody seem stupid. Like this is what you sound like, guys. Here,
Yep.
I mean, if you just listen to the radio in the car, it's hysterical. All the things that, like, it's just art imitating life, and it's doing it quite well. And so I'm excited to see what the hell they got in store for 6,
Florida.
because
Yay.
yeah. So I just think I don't know, Dice. I'm gonna divert a bit for a top. I don't mean to do this. I gotta mark the time code 29:30. But if I were doing stand-up and I were speaking in generalization, I would say that certain communities tend to overreact and get pitchforks about things. And not sooner than I was kind of putting that together, the horse situation happened with somebody's screen being shared on a stream.
Oh.
Yes, Tacoma wept.
Right.
Yes, the
I'm
stallion
at least
energy.
aware.
I gotcha.
I'm aware of it.
Oh, you have no like proper knowledge of it. That's
Some of it. I think I was watching a stream that Gray did. If I
Oh
remember
wow.
correctly.
Yeah, that was That was just the beginning, and apparently it got worse after that. But good times.
Oh, good.
Right.
I kind of thought so. It was
yeah.
just this first little bit of smoke, you know.
Yeah. So, not to throw anybody in any particular generalized buckets, but
I never touched a horse.
but somebody defended the streamer and got defensive and decided to turn it into a LGBTQ issue, and that really was never the thing. It was CP. It was stuff that I try to stay away from my initials now.
Yeah. Yes.
So this has happened with ContraPoints too a couple of times where, you know, a Tino, a trans in name only, where, you know, the hardcore trans feel like if you're not a certain,
There's a certain checkbox kind of list to go with, which is bullshit. So,
Yeah.
but
sorry.
yes, no, please speak for me. Be my mouth, please, please. That's something that I've seen. There's the how should we phrase this? The content in question. That unfortunately, for a very long time, but more so recently, has been thrown into the LGBTQ category and vehemently rejected by the LGBTQ community. Because,
I feel like that did nobody favors, especially if you're going to use that as a shield. Like, you know, you're picking on me because I'm trans. No. That is not it. Nice try, but that's not it.
I always have this mentality. A lot of people, thankfully, share it. Not everyone, but a lot of people do, which is, you'll be a piece of shit, and I won't use the wrong pronouns, but I will tell you that you are a piece of shit, okay? There's good and bad in fucking everything. Everything.
Yeah, so do you... Well, I don't know if I'm able to say this without getting in trouble. I feel like that the hardest among any particular group really ruin it for people, and I feel like
it's because they're the loudest.
Right.
So they draw most attention.
Would you say that there are certain pockets of the LGBTQ community that are not doing any favors for the cause?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, one example that springs to mind immediately, which actually kind of does have a lot to do with the trans community, but more against them, is, and I laugh every time, but it's really sad. It's a sad, pitiful kind of laugh. There's a group on Twitter, at least, maybe elsewhere. I don't know. I don't look too closely at it. It's like looking at the sun. But there's a group that's essentially gays against trans people. I'm like, conflict of interest, excuse me, table for everybody, come here. But there's shit like that. Yeah, there's gay people, lesbians, pansexuals, who knows, who are not helping the collective cause. They have, again, it confuses the ever-living shit out of me. But some people in the LGBTQ community, very out loud and proud, will say certain things that are a direct conflict of interest, not just to people outside of their little group, but to them too, in the long run. And I just don't fucking get it. It makes no fucking sense to me.
Right. I appreciate you being so candid. Gray, would it be fair to make a comparison that the loudest amongst white straight gamers are kind of not helping at all either?
Yeah. Well, like Gamergate 1 did bring out like certain characters, if you will. I think that kind of brought Fuentes, the kind of white nationalist guy, a little bit more to the front. And I know it really brought like characters like Milo Yiannopoulos, but there were a lot of people who kind of took this as like a cause to champion or whatever. But yes, I would say, no matter what it is, any sort of group, the most extreme are generally the ones who are the loudest, and sadly, they're not the best representation of the group in almost any group I've ever been in. So I assume it kind of goes across the board. But yeah, I definitely see a direct parallel here.
Yeah, and I feel like the loud people banging pots and pans on the internet and making a stink about everything really don't represent. I mean, listen, I buy 1 to 2 games a year, so it definitely doesn't represent me. I agree with Dice. The first thing on the top of my what is important list is it good? Because I don't put money out for, a game every 2 weeks or whatever. If I'm going to put money into it, I want it to be something I'm going to want to play for an extended period. So maybe that's not fair for me to say that, but I would hope that most gamers would be similar. Where
Sure, and
go ahead.
I think most are cool with a bunch of different versions of this, like representation and everything. Like, if it means like your character designer, it, like literally has more options, like who the hell isn't for that? Like,
Right.
it sucks when you're stuck to just like a couple of options. If it's something like that, like hell yeah, I think most people are down with that. Like it makes it a little bit more customizable. Like hell yeah.
Well, not
I don't know.
pronouns. Not pronouns in the Starfield
Well,
game. Thank
They're
you.
using they, them.
So-
What kind of pronouns are those?
Yeah, it's definitely not the hill that I want to die on, but I guess I can understand if like this is just the straw that broke the camel's back. They just see
Really?
a bunch of maybe. So like if you go back to like this Gamergate thing, a lot of it was, so then you do get these Anita Sarkeesian types who are saying like, you don't understand, it's the male gaze. That is what's wrong with this mostly male industry. And so we need to actually tone down what some of these characters look like. So if certain aspects have been changing for a while, and then finally you see like in the character generator pronouns, I guess I could understand how somehow that's the last straw. But there's a bunch of things that have happened like over the last decade that people don't necessarily like. Kind of to tie that back to this, so at about like the 20-minute mark in that Belair speech that she's giving, she basically says like, I think the industry, and in so many creative industries, if you look at a film and television and any art form, we start treating our core demographics as fixed and static value, something that does not want to change, something that's locked in place. So despite the changing face of the audience, despite the changing face of conferences like this one, we still look at our core demographics and say, okay, they're white, cis, hetero males, and we cater mostly exclusively to them. And the problem is that we don't just cater to them. Like here's something that we think you'll enjoy. We cater to them like a picky baby. So it kind of sucks. A lot of people are really taking offense because they called them picky babies.
Oh, for
I think,
fuck's sake.
if you cut that part
That's
off
babist.
the end of it, it's like, hey, we've got this core demographic and it's cool. They're supporting us. How do we bring in other demographics as well? How do we expand this? That doesn't sound like a horrible statement. But when you add but these guys are pissed off that we're not just catering to them. They're picky babies. I think it's attitudes like that have kind of come from that Gamergate thing. I think people see all these changes as like, okay, but this is your attitude. You're saying I'm a picky baby when you're saying, hey, your representation or the thing that you liked isn't that great. We're going to change it in this way. I don't know. Like I said, I'm a casual here. It doesn't, I wouldn't care about the pronoun. Like you get to choose it. So it's going
Right.
to refer to how you
You
want
have
to.
a
That
choice.
doesn't seem like a
Right.
big deal to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Don't
I
select
guess
it.
I
How
can
about
see
that?
it as like
Yeah.
a compounding thing. Like this is the last thing for him. So then it became that huge rant that blew up. I
He was
don't know.
just
I mean,
waiting for the chance.
It's entertaining.
Maybe like I don't know. Yeah, for sure.
The
It
guy
blew
knows how to
up. Like,
perform because if you're with him, you're
everyone
laughing,
clipped that thing.
and if you're against him, you're laughing. So like, very good entertainer. He knows what he's doing.
Mhm.
Whether or not you
And it,
agree with him, that's the other thing.
Got him a weekly show with Eric July, so that's pretty
Oh.
good for him.
Another close
Is
friend of the
it?
show.
Good. Are we sure that's the right good?
Well, for his career, probably.
Sure,
but
sure.
yeah. So I don't know. It kind of break up, and then sorry, Belair does kind of go on. we feed them the same thing that we know they'll love and keep feeding it to them. We're like, here you go. We know you'll love it. Eat this, eat this, eat this. So when they get anything else, they react as a picky baby would, which would be like, oh, no, thank you. I do not want this. And we actually have done this so long that we're doing is creating an entire nation of picky babies, and they make us scared to deviate from what we actually want to do, just in case these picky babies don't want to play our games. So it's weird. Like, she's doubling, tripling down by calling them picky babies. I think that's a horrible analogy to like say, okay, this core portion of our audience, they're picky babies. That seems like, you're just doing a very bad way of marketing to a good portion of your audience. It seems like you are kind of alienating them in order to try and get this other potential audience. It seems like that's a bad business move.
Right, business. I mean, I'd love to see statistics, Vince, if you're still in there. Statistics for what the cis hetero white male, how much of the game profits or game industry do they represent? I mean, has there ever been some sort of census bureau for who's buying and playing these games? Because
I think we'll be surprised.
I would say it's at least 75%.
Yeah, unfortunately I don't have the breakdown.
Well, yeah, I know.
Like that.
Where's the numbers site for that?
I just had a couple minutes to gather the stuff for this. I should have gone into the numbers. My bad.
It's
I should
fine.
have postponed.
I'm a dweeb. Dice, what were you? What would be the percentage you would venture?
I think it would. Once again, as I'm not sure where exactly I would be put as far as my status as a gamer. I'm an indie appreciator, but there are, I think, a surprising to a lot of people number of not straight white males who adore games, just like horror movies. Yeah, that's the demographic that a lot of people will go for, is this age range straight white boy. Good. Boobs. Get boobs in there.
Yeah.
But
I should have clarified. I'm talking about the big budget stuff. The indie games, they're quite diverse, and
very much,
a lot of them are a hell of fun. So I wanted to make sure that AAA, that's where my number is coming from. Yeah.
I'm sure that, like you said, a large majority of the demographic would be exactly what they're aiming for, sure. But I think, once again, to go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, the squeakiest wheel gets the oil.
Sure.
So, unfortunately, I can't tell you how many little clips or compilations I've seen of women or femme-presenting people who are playing multiplayer games like COD, who are pushed down because you don't belong here, this game isn't made for you. So I think there's a much larger percentage than a lot of people might think or want. That's not the, like, teen to 20-year-old straight white guy.
Yeah, I just remember from doing marketing with the theaters and those studios, 17 to 34 white men, straight white. I don't even know if it was straight. I don't think we separated like that. It was
just 17 to 34.
White. Yeah, just white guys, because they have the most expendable income is what the study said. So apparently, if a straight couple has a date night, the guy's paying, and I'm not saying that I've come to this conclusion. I'm just saying that studios would say, make sure you target white guys, and it's just like, all right.
I try to. No.
Yeah. Cody says, just like in the movie industry, specifically Disney, they need to figure out how to broaden their reach without relying on weird verbiage that alienates their current audience. Right. And that's the other thing with business. You said it, Gray, that they're quite well off at this point. And it's because of whatever current generation of gamers that are, granted, some of them are being loud about what they don't like. you can't just completely turn around and say, you know what, this is how we got here. Fuck it. We're totally changing everything. I don't know. Again, without the numbers, it's really hard to say just how important the squeaky wheel is.
But there's plenty of them.
Yes, there's a train full of squeaky wheels.
Yeah, it's a whole goddamn line. You can hear it coming a mile away.
Yeah, and there's actually more that Kim Blair like went on in this thing. She like continues that picky baby metaphor even more. She was saying like, I do like to imagine that when we look at white guys, there's several of you here. I think when we look at you, we say, okay, you can't possibly enjoy this, but I think they want also, and maybe you want also, to experience new and different stories. I think we like to step out of this rule that like white men can enjoy fantasy worlds, alien, sci-fi, monsters, anything so long as it's through the lens that looks exactly like them. I think that's a horrible narrative. I don't know that that's necessarily what's happening. But I don't know. Like, I hate to bring up like the thing that everybody says, but it's like Metroid back in the day. Like it seemed like it was just awesome to find out that it's like, wait, this cool, amazing character that I've been playing at is this like amazing woman this whole time. Like, hell yeah, Samus is awesome. But that is like one in a bunch of games. Like there are also a bunch of male characters and weird creature characters. But
right.
Sorry, she kind of continues. Yeah, exactly.
It's an
because
alien
if that's
that
the kind of person. So she kind of goes on, and this is kind of where she's using that really bad language that kind of alienates the core audience again, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
because
it feels like Brie Larson all over again. It just feels like the same thing in a different industry.
Where it's like, yeah, if you said it a different way, like I think that same message could come across not nearly as combative.
Right,
but
I understand what they're trying
down.
to say. Right.
It sounds very offense
because
first.
she's throwing the baby in there again. Yeah, and it's like anytime you're comparing them, like your core audience, to a picky baby, I don't know that you're going to win any sort of sympathy with them. But I guess that's not what this is about. But yeah, she kind of continues, because if that's the kind of person that we're always going to cater to, you're never going to innovate. You're never going to change things. You're going to keep feeding the picky baby. And we cannot continue to try and create art under a system that's going to bar innovation for fear of the picky baby throwing a tantrum.
Yeah, the terminology is fucked.
It sounds very offensive. I wish she said something else, like a picky eater, something like that. Like you're never going to experience new flavors if you're a picky eater. I don't know. That doesn't have that negative connotation of like, come on, you're a picky baby. Grow
up. Cody, Last of Us 2 made bank and won tons of awards. I don't think the squeaky wheel is as loud as we'd like to treat it. That's fair. Yeah. I'm just, this is a reactionary stream of, well, not a reactionary, but this is my kind of, my I don't know, knee-jerk reaction to hearing this news. And again, that darn kitty, what was it, episode 40 of Thinkers this past week? 41?
I think so. It is the most recent one from Thursday.
So there's a great big long stream. You could hear like me getting introduced to this and a couple of other people in the chat, including Vincent Martin. They kind of drive the bus, so to speak, while I learn what the hell's going on here. So there's different perspectives there. So,
well, you're thinking about it.
I'm still thinking. Yeah,
absorbing.
Yeah,
coming to your own conclusions.
The
yeah,
whale speech is what?
So Vincent just sent me another speech by Kim Blair as well. I have not looked at that one at all. This was the one that was kind of going insanely viral, and there were like those two clips from that people kept using, kind of the picky baby thing, and then that thing that seems like mob tactic where they're strong arming you. Like if they say no, then go after the marketing and explain to them the nightmare they'll face. I don't know. That was why I chose this one. I do need to review the one that he sent me in my DMs, but I have not seen that one yet. He is saying, and I do believe him, that it is apparently more damning than the other one. So I don't know.
Too often loud minority treated is treated as louder and more representative than they actually are, just like saying the Marvels flopped because white guys hate women-led films. That's an interesting comparison. I mean, Emily and I brought it up yesterday. Poor Things, it's a feminist message. That movie is a feminist message. And nobody's saying how woke
if
it
is.
is.
So I kind of disagree, but I can definitely understand like how it would be. I don't see that she has. Sorry, this is a huge tangent, but
it's fine.
I don't see how she has any agency at any point in the film. Like, first off, she's under the doctor's control, then she's under McCandless, then she's under now I can't even remember his name, but Ruffalo's control, and then
Duncan?
from there, thank you, Duncan. Wettermark, and then from there she's under the control of the madam, and then from there she gets a letter saying she has to return home. She returns home, then she takes up his legacy of being a Dr. Frankenstein. So I don't know, it seems like it is his legacy that then got on her at the end. I'm not sure that she made any choices at any point in there, so I don't know. I would want her to have more agency. That's why I think Barbie is the superior film that kind of explores the same idea.
Like I said,
but
I do not disagree with you.
To each their own.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with the quality of the film. There's definitely subtext there that is just feminist in nature, where it's just like, oh, a woman decides she doesn't need a man to make money and things like that. And it's a regular. It's a weird Frankenstein-esque film with a lot of fucking. If that's what you want, if you don't want to look into it,
challenged me, but
absolutely.
I don't know. I'm just not sure about the messaging, and that's kind of my thing with all those Yorgos Lanthimos films. He doesn't necessarily have like messaging in there. It's not supposed to be. They're like weird, dreamlike reflections of kind of what's going on, but there's no underlying message. So I don't know.
Yeah, Cody's sick. He's under the weather, so.
Oh, that's no excuse. Cough up on the mic. Come on, let's go.
It's fine, Cody. Don't worry about it. Just don't say that we didn't invite you. That's all. that would be like somebody else. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off there, Chris.
No.
Oh yeah, we were talking about Poor Things. It's fine.
Sorry, I was a diversion into Poor Things, but awesome stream. I liked your guys' interpretation on it a lot, and I think that's an interesting, challenging film.
Well, that's
something to sit down with your parents and watch.
It's a good family flick.
Warn them that they should prepare for a porno, and then they'll be pleasantly surprised when there's actually.
But this is going to be an award-winning.
Yeah. As we speak, thank you for joining us.
I think so.
In competition with the Oscars, but all I need is the summary. I'll get the.
Yeah. Oh wait, let me guess.
Yeah.
We're not going to get anything of horror again. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
it depends. Poor Things could be in the horror comedy category, if you will. It's 11, very Frankenstein-esque.
It's nominated for 11 awards. But
But I mean, like it's got a dusting of horror in there. But fair enough.
Well, not so much so to where the Academy will go.
Well, yeah. I mean,
fair enough.
American Fiction is a movie that, if you haven't seen it, it's very kind of kind of cockeyed looking at art and certain industries like it's I don't want to spoil it. But anyway,
I got issues with it, and it's specifically like the ending type of trope that they're using. It's like, oh, come on.
Well, they do like a meta type thing, but we could certainly do a Oscars debrief if you want, Gray. I'm completely fine with that.
Sure. I think I've seen all of them except for like 2. So hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that nothing that I've seen thus far is on the list.
Just check.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Where's Lisa Frankenstein? Huh?
Oh, that's 2024. That'll be next year's Oscars.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, see, I don't know how this works. The fuck is this?
So my point was, these people that make us think about quote unquote woke things in culture had nothing to say about Poor Things, and I don't know why they didn't. Because they did about Barbie for a little bit. So, and similar but not the same. But that was kind of my point. So what it seems like these Sweet Baby Inc folk are doing is, I don't know if representation is the chief concern for that company, but it just seems like they're making what they do seem a lot more important than
Virtue signaling.
yeah. Yeah,
It could be.
I'm tired of all the phrases that I now know over the last 6 months. Virtue signaling, mansplaining, lampshading.
Punching up, punching down.
I guess to kind of tie it into Sweet Baby Inc and the weird Oscar tangent that we kind of just had. You know, like there are certain quotas for diversity and stuff that are now kind of being introduced. Well, not now, but have been introduced into like the Oscars and stuff as well. I don't know. There still seem to be a lot of really quality films that are in there this year. Like I don't see, because of these things, like suddenly there's all these films that are overlooked. It seems like every year there's quite a few that are kind of
Sure.
overlooked, if you will. That doesn't seem to be something new. But even with these things, like I think out of all the like hundreds of films I saw last year, it's a pretty good swath that is in this Oscar thing. Like I'm struggling to think of one that should have been nominated for more. I would have put Barbie in a
was
few
the
other
worst year
spots,
to use
but
for
it's just me. Yeah. So I don't know.
So Louise says these people screaming about diversity and female leads been shoved down their throats. Also, probably played the hell out of Tomb Raider in the '90s and love Aliens. But
Yeah.
they changed
Both of those
Tomb
were
Raider.
awesome.
Tomb Raider.
She doesn't have pointy boobs anymore.
Right. She was much more well equipped in the old school versions, and I do remember that being a little bit of a issue when they made her more athletic, for a lack of a better term. That
You
was
mean
kind
someone
of
who actually does a lot of physical exertion in order
Yeah,
to do
wait.
what she needs to?
you saying double G cups don't tend to do parkour
I mean,
regularly?
Not without.
maybe not in
harm.
parkour. It could possibly help with, you've got built-in buoyancy. If
She'll
there's
float.
water parts.
It's a swimming game.
Yeah.
Or sink.
Yeah.
Depends.
Some water parts in each of those. It's true. Hopefully float. But I don't know. Like there were some cool improvements to those later Tomb Raider games too.
I'm not
Like
complaining.
I don't
I'm
know, the
just
fact
saying
that like you need to hit the actual buttons in time or you get like impaled on a tree. It's like that so beats the polygonal tigers or whatever were back in it. But fair enough. They changed the way the character looks.
But listen, if I can't masturbate to my favorite, I don't know, video
I
game.
think you could find a way.
If cone boobs can do it, geometry is going to be great for you.
Yeah.
Cupping into the mic would be pulling a Brian. I'm an independent bad bitch. It's fair.
Stay independent.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. Tomb Raider was like, I'm trying to think when I was familiar with something where complaints arose about changes, and that's the only one that I can really think of where I was familiar with the property, and I was like, oh yeah, she had much bigger breasts in the Polygon era, and now they're making her seem more athletic. Which, I mean, even when they did the movies with Angelina Jolie, she actually wore stuff to make her lungs seem bigger, and I don't think very many people would say Angelina Jolie is what you would call flat. Like the fact that they had to in the films make her seem
Accentuate.
more well endowed. Like I'm sorry, does that matter?
Apparently.
Apparently,
For some
yeah.
it does. I mean, some people like the original character design. It's all that matters to them.
And how
I
dare
don't know how
the original be
realistic it is.
tainted?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like, it's the same thing with remakes. The original's still there. Just go play it. Like what? I remember when they redid Resident Evil and added stuff. Listen, it has nothing to do with being attracted to characters, but they added stuff, and it wasn't the original, and I enjoyed both of them.
I love the remakes of the Resident Evil games. Like they just look so beautiful. And
Absolutely.
buttery. Like to me, that is like peak. I don't know. I just love those. But I'm in a weird category, very rarefied air, if you will. I liked Velma. So I love Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo's out there. I get it. Like Velma is supposedly woke trash and everything like that. Like, I don't think it is. I think it is hilarious comedy. They are doing a different take on all the characters, but all the characters are still there in every version you could ever want of Scooby-Doo. There's, 20 years
one
of
for
content,
every
if you
era.
will. Yeah. So this is not the worst version of it. That's obviously Scrappy Doo. But yeah, like I don't know. I like their take on it, and Velma is now just the foil and is just so horrible of a character. Everyone hates her. Like, I don't know. To me, that doesn't come off as woke. It comes off as like, okay, they're doing a different take on this. And there are ideas that are said out there, but I don't know that you're supposed to agree with the character that's saying it or anything like that. And they're actually going like pretty hard on the comedy. I was a little sad to hear that Mindy Kaling isn't getting a season 2 on that. But, I'm weird for liking that. Everybody has told me that's a trash opinion. So fair enough.
Granted, I gave it one episode and not even the whole one. And I was
You
just
didn't
like,
give it
this is
enough.
too much.
It
Yeah,
gets good.
like I said, to be fair, I haven't given it the proper shake, so it could even out. I don't know, but I for me to be like, all right, enough with this.
For the love of God.
Yeah, it just felt like way too much, way too soon. But in the same breath, I quite enjoyed American Dinner in America. I don't.
Oh,
remember.
yeah. I
I
think it's Dinner America.
Yeah, I think it's Dinner in America. They hit you so hard with language, visual. I don't even know. Yeah, it's not fair for me to judge one. Never mind. These are movies. We're talking about games.
It's what we compare to.
Yeah.
It's what we know.
Well, yeah. So the fact that Sweet Baby Inc is approaching this with a bit of a well, you were talking about Poor Things before, Gray. It was challenging. That's what art is supposed to do. I don't know.
I think so.
I don't know if that's.
I don't know that everyone's looking for that, though. Like, some people just want that popcorn movie that doesn't challenge them, Okay,
Right.
They
what's
just
the
want
next
an
Fast and
escape
Furious?
from-
We're going to space. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Leprechaun in space, sure.
while I
Not the worst one.
while I appreciate the fact that games have a bit more of a storytelling challenge aspect to it, where there's a bit more character development and you're concerned with the story, I don't think I could be in the minority. This is where we probably should have had a strong gamer here. I don't think that gamers plays often is what I meant, Dice.
Oh. You don't know my hobbies.
I think gamers are comfortable with the games themselves being the challenge and not so much the storytelling. But I certainly could be wrong, because the games themselves, they are, if they're done right, they're a challenge to from the start. Whether or not that has to do with the characters or the story, I don't think that's the case in every game. I certainly absolutely could be wrong. I'm judging things based on what my taste has developed into over the course of 20, 25, 30 years.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm kind of casual now, but I don't know. It definitely didn't take me out of the game to play as a different character. I really loved that. It kind of, added to it. It's like, okay, this is a different world. I'm a different character. Like, I don't know.
Who's Doomer Media?
So he is a guy who kind of rejected his internet fame for a moment. So he made this video a few years ago called Vosh is unironically evil, and then it became Is Vosh unironically evil? And it kind of went through a bunch of his kind of like past discretions, if you will, and how he's kind of bad faith, if you will. It blew up, and then he kind of hated his whole Doomer persona, and he kind of left the internet. Tried a few different channels, but he's back to embracing his doomerness. So, yeah, he's kind of been on. He's known for hot takes. I know he went on Adam and Sitch's show and went on EFAP a couple different times and had kind of rather big arguments, if you will, that kind of blew up. Like, he doesn't like any sort of narrative in games, if I remember right. There was a video game argument that also kind of blew up on EFAP.
Yeah.
That he started. He had some offensive takes to certain people, if you will.
Well,
but he would like your take, according to Vincent. So that's awesome.
I'm not saying that. Wait, hold on. Let me clarify this. I'm not saying that I don't think that narratives should be in games. I'm saying that for me, I like it when a story is developed. I don't think gamers have that and that the most important thing is the story. I don't know if that's the case for people who are used to playing side scrollers or whatever. I'm just going to make myself look dumber and more ignorant. So that's not
I love
exactly what I
throwback
was.
side scrollers. There's not much narrative that gets thrown in those.
Sure.
It's like, okay, you're shooting at this guy now, and now you're doing this thing.
Yeah, Contra.
I don't know.
I don't know what the hell the story was. But
Oh,
that
dude,
was
I'm
fun.
so excited. I think in like 2 days, Contra Operation Gulag is released. So that's like the first game in forever that I've been excited to play.
Wow.
So, yeah, really looking forward to that. But yeah, talking about throwback games, it's a new version of a throwback side scroller. It's good.
Oh, it's still a side scroll. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're still going with that. They're doing like partial 3D, but we'll see. But yeah, what can I say? I love those throwback, horrible, not super narrative games. But there's other people that are super into the narrative, and that's awesome.
Sure.
Like there should be different games for different people and different tastes.
And I think that's what's getting lost on everybody. If there are different games for different audiences, what is the problem? If it's not your thing, don't get it.
Yeah,
Some people like the original Lay's chip, others like the sour cream and onion. You don't have
and
to
they're all
eat the
wrong.
sour cream and
Vinegar and salt
onion.
is the way to go.
Right.
Oh, wait.
Unless you have access to Canada, and then it's all dressed in that thing. Greatest chip ever.
Here they're called Walkers. Thank you very much. Lay's is actually Walkers.
Fair
too.
enough.
Same logo, different name. Dice is the story in a game important to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can play if I want something that's. I'm sorry, I keep comparing to movies. If I want something that is just kind of a brainless thing to enjoy, to just relax with, then yes, I will pick a game with like little to no story if I don't want it to be there. But more often than not, if I want to play a game, it's gonna have to try to suck me into it, and what better way to do that than with compelling characters and compelling story. I guess a good example that I'm most familiar with as far as that is concerned is the Dark Pictures anthology, because that's all about the story and the characters, and you get to choose it kind of, sort of, not perhaps fully consciously, by what you make the characters do or not do.
Yeah. I think the thing that games have over films is if you're going to do storytelling, you can really mess with the way that the story lays out if people have choices of what they're going to do. I mean, I keep thinking of Big, the comic book that he designed that was controlled by a computer, and you could choose your own ending and things like that.
Yeah.
Gaming can influence that type of interactivity, and it's a shame not enough people do it. Where I don't know. Again, without stats, it'd be interesting to know how much people value the story in a game, or how much it affects whether or not they're going to play it. Because I don't know if you gave me Inception and I had 3 or 4 options in how that game ends, it would be interesting to see the different endings, and it changes the way that you can experience, or I don't know. It's something extra that films just can't do.
Yep.
I think a game can have a great story and great gameplay, but a game can be great fun and have crap story as well. It depends on the quality of the game, really. And I think the thing about games is they can't get away with having a great story and shitty gameplay, because I don't know. People probably wouldn't stick around for the entire narrative to play out if the game sucks.
Well, like if there's been a couple of times where I've tried to play a game that sounded really interesting, and I wanted to go through the game, but the controls were infuriating, or I couldn't do what I was supposed to do. So, fine, fuck it, leave it alone. Let's go on to something else.
Yeah, there was a game that I downloaded. If you're following me on Twitch, you might remember I played it once or twice, and it was this game where you have access to somebody's hard drive. I think they're like a psychiatrist or something. Easy for me to say.
Maybe so.
And you have all of these clips, and there's like real Hollywood actors in it, and you have to piece together the story based on
like
all
a mystery thing.
right, all the different
Yeah.
footage that you have, and like if you just play some random clip, it doesn't make sense, but you have to go piece together. Like the idea is fascinating. If it had a better UI, I think I would have been around more to see how that played out. But the interface was just kind of weak for the same reasons that something like Unfriended, it's really not believable as far as a desktop is concerned. But for the sake of the story in Unfriended, you know, they cut corners and they do an unrealistic version of somebody's desktop, and I'm okay with that. If you can, you know, not make it seem 100% realistic for the sake of either the game or the story, I don't know very many people that would be like, this is bullshit. I'm not going to finish this incredible game because that's not what Microsoft does when they first open a computer. Like, it just is that the problem?
I love the people in anything who are like, well, that's not realistic. I'm like, yeah, but just catch on to this. What did you think about, everything else? What
The
about
entire
that?
rest of it.
Yes. Was it not compelling?
Yeah. But sorry, Crawling Cast. Exactly my point. Games have the gameplay part over movies. I love movies, but I can play Super Mario and not give a damn about the story. Yeah, that's
You didn't
right.
know the background of Mario?
True. And just try and explain the story of certain Mario, like Mario 2. Like, I don't know. I guess, it wasn't actually a Mario one, but I don't know. That's one of my favorite Mario ones. I guess Super Mario World would probably be my very favorite. But yeah, you don't really need to know the story. It's like, oh, shit, you can jump on a Yoshi now? Let's do this.
Oh,
We can ride Yoshi
this hill
and send
has
him
a
into the
door in it.
abyss.
But there's, amazing games out there that are all like story. I know it's controversial, I guess, but the one that you were just playing, that you just did the playthrough on, Last of Us or Last of Us 2, like, I don't know. I don't think you could just turn that off and, do something else while you're playing that game. That's kind of the experience that I want with some things. Like, I remember, just like wasting time, like playing Tetris or whatever back in the day, and I'd mainly be focusing on something else, like kind of two screens before we had
Oh, wow.
everything on computer.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
I
do
was
that.
old school.
Multitasking.
Especially Tetris.
Well, I mean, like, are you really focusing on the music or anything like that? Like, I don't know. I would
Sure,
get
zoning
my
out while playing
brain- Yeah. Hey, it's my childhood. I enjoyed stuff like that. So I don't know. There's a different kind of thing, but there's certain games where it's like you need to actually pay attention to the dialogue, the story that's going on, what you're collecting, and you can't just have like music blaring or a podcast or whatever. It's a different type of game play, but there are certain ones that like they kind of lend themselves to that, and I guess that's what I'm looking for in a game usually. But these giant immersive experiences where you do get like the narrative and it really drives what's going on. That's a different desire, and it's awesome. Like, I think both games are warranted, but I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to the Contra release because it is just a stupid side scroller that I'm not going to need to know any backstory. It's like, okay, I'm just going to kill things, and hey, I can listen to like a podcast or catch up on other things while I'm doing it.
I like when I
So,
play
I
a
don't know.
sports game or something, I tend to not listen to it and listen to music or whatever. So the complaints that I've heard, I'm not done with it yet, by the way. I won't
We're not
spoil it,
finished.
but the Last of Us 2, from what I understand, people had an issue with a death, and that's not the entire gripe against that game. And the other gripe, I'm sorry, I don't really see it. Granted, I haven't finished the game, but I think as far as storytelling is concerned, I understand where they feel like a death happens too soon, and storytelling, the narrative, it's nonlinear, but I feel like if they just had the two parallel storylines running at the same time and then you experience that at the end, it doesn't change the way things work out. And the fact that gamers or the squeaky wheel gamers are so bothered by a storytelling element is kind of interesting because, it's just narrative. It's the way that the story was structured. And again, it's nonlinear. And yeah, is the death too soon? Possibly, but if you play the story out and you look at it as a story, the storylines are running parallel. So it's still the end of the game. I just, if they went in a linear fashion, you'd still have to go back and forth between the two storylines. So I don't know. Granted, I have not finished it, so perhaps there's something else that I haven't come across. But yeah, the gripe with Last of Us 2 is stuff that has to do with the story, the element of delivering a story beat. What the argument is too soon, and that has nothing to do with gameplay because it's a cutscene. So it's interesting.
I think people have gotten really too sensitive, if you will, both sides since
Yes.
I guess 2016. You know, like you look back at like some classic games, like if they were released today, they'd be seen as like woke. Final Fantasy VII comes to mind, obviously. Like you know, you're kind of eco-terrorists, if you will, in that one. I don't know if you did that today. I think people would say like this is a super woke agenda. It was just, you know, kind of a weird alternate reality at the time. But I don't know. When I'm looking at elements like this, like maybe you can consider that woke, but I think there's a lot of previous games that would also be lumped into that we just never did because
Legend
we
of
weren't
Zelda.
thinking about it. We weren't looking for that. It might be. I mean,
It's a twink that
It's
you're
named
playing. It
after
looks
the
like a
chick.
girl, but it's not.
Yeah. So it's funny you bring that up, Gray. I had this idea for a game show with my movie friends, and I was going to read synopsis and cast for certain films, and I wasn't going to say, you know, what the movie is, who the actors are, but you know, white woman as the lead, black guy as the male lead, and just see how far we can go with. All right, so here's the cast. Here are the four main feature roles. Is it woke or not? Because that appears to be what they are judging these films on. Because you're putting in a diversity hire in there. All right, well let's test it.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun because I think there's a lot of them that are, you know, accepted as like, no, this is the good version of doing that. That like, you know,
Right.
if you just break it down as the synopsis, and there's, you know, fun ways you can frame everything.
Right.
But I think it would surprise a lot of people. That seems like a killer idea, to tell you the truth.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Well, let's see the execution of it before we.
Trial run. Guinea pigs line up.
But the other thing, I mean, you kind of alluded to it before, Gray. I feel like for the people that are complaining about quote unquote woke culture being too sensitive, those same people get really sensitive about when they get called out or if something it's just funny that sensitivity is the issue. But then when the anti-woke folks come out, suddenly they can't handle criticism or name calling or any of that. Granted, I'm not saying that any of that shit on Twitter that's not respectable at all. Like I don't know how that person still has a job, but I'm not the type of person to say this person shouldn't be working. Like those type of crusades are like I don't know. There's this whole internet thing has made everybody really sensitive and really vocal about shit that just, I don't know, normally wouldn't affect people's daily lives. And I don't know where the line is. Yes.
There's a line.
Karens versus Karens. Yes. Karens by a different color. That's all it is.
Careful about mentioning color. You'll upset someone.
Yeah. The player was mostly fighting the control system, which people hated.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
in
Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider 6.
Okay, Angel of
Yeah.
Darkness. I see.
Fair enough. And I did not actually play it. I just watched the gameplay or whatever, and how the impaling seemed quite fantastical to me. It seemed like that was a huge step up versus, you know, these polygons kind of swiping at you, if you will. But yeah, I didn't actually play it, so that sucks. I remember the control system of just the original Tomb Raider was really hard for me to figure out back in the day. But
I'll
fair enough.
ask
We learned to adapt.
I'll ask both of you this, and as we are currently on Twitch as well. Do you think watching somebody play on like Twitch or streaming software is the same as playing it?
I don't know. Sadly, that's how I've experienced a bunch of games
Oh,
recently.
sure.
But again, as it's established, I'm very casual. Yeah, I'm definitely not like a gamer or anything like that. So I feel like it's giving me an actual like insight into the world of gaming that I'm not doing on my own. I don't have a console right now, but no, is it the same as playing? No, like same thing as back in the day when there'd be a group of you, like you're waiting to play, like you're just watching the other ones play.
my
It's
turn,
not
give
the
me the controller.
same. I mean, yeah. No, it's definitely not the same, but you know, it is much different. And I kind of like the fact that, you know, chat exists now and stuff.
Yeah.
So you can see people interacting with other people. And then, you know, when you see like those multiplayer games where multi people are streaming it and everything, I don't know, that is kind of cool. I do like that, but it's not the same as you actually playing it, would be my opinion. But again, I'm casual, so it doesn't matter.
Someone, interestingly enough, PewDiePie had said this, and I thought that's great. I love that. You always have, perhaps as an example, an older generation saying, "Well, what's so popular about these people who just play the games? Why don't you play the games?" A great response to that is, "Why do you watch sports on TV?" It's the same thing, really.
True.
You're watching it for the enjoyment, perhaps less stress, than playing the game yourself. Or maybe it's, I've played the game, now I want to see someone else experience it, see what they did and what their reactions were to this thing or that thing. Or sometimes, like me, you really don't have any interest in playing the game, but I'll watch it because someone that I like is playing it, and I want to see what jokes they'll come up with or how much entertainment they'll bring to this game.
Right. Yeah.
I really hadn't thought about that. That's a really good point with the whole like watching sports, especially since like the birth of like esports and everything. Like, yeah, you're
Oh.
right, and I have watched a whole bunch of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of stole my thunder, Dice. I when I was a
Well,
kid,
sorry.
when I was a kid, you know, the internet wasn't what it is now, that's for sure. But like we would get Nintendo Power and magazines where all you had to judge a game was like a picture or a couple, and whatever the journalist said about the game, that was what you had to go on. And as an only child, if I didn't have friends around, or when I did have friends around, like Gray brought up, you know, you wait your turn, especially on the one player shit where, oh, I died, your turn. I would have killed for the opportunity to have something like Twitch or YouTube or watch somebody play a game that maybe, like Dice said, you know, this person's really entertaining to me. I want to see them in this game environment. I've had people who have sent me stuff and specifically asked me to play the game based on, I don't know, the stupid shit I say. That is Last of Us 2.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, Last of Us
That's the
2
dream.
is
You know?
official-
Somebody actually wants
Is it
to
a
see me
dream?
play a game.
Well,
My dream from when I was a kid. I mean, you know, it seems like it might be attainable, but you know, it was my dream. That's awesome. You got to live out my childhood fantasy.
I don't know if it probably could have been a bad thing if I knew that was going to be a job someday. I don't know what my plan would have been if I knew, oh, you can play games for an audience. That's crazy. But without having to spend money on the game itself, and these streaming platforms are free for the most part, to get like a sneak preview of sorts and just, you know, pass the controller and watch your favorite streamer play the game, you get an idea of whether or not you want it. And the only thing that I think is missing from, you know, the rental experience is the gameplay itself. And I think games more than movies, you need to look into, especially if you're only buying 1 or 2 games a year, you really need to do homework on how it is before sinking that, like Cody said, $100 on a game that you're not going to enjoy. Like, that sucks. I mean, movies, you're only putting in 90 to 120 minutes of your time, and the cost is significantly less. So if you don't enjoy it, it's far less a brutal punch to you and your time and your wallet. But I feel like you shouldn't go into a movie knowing too much about it. I mean, maybe a simple plot line, and what type of genre is it. It's kind of contradictory, but I feel like games, if you want to know before you dump money into it, I'd like to know what. All right, so here's a video. That's cool. I like the way it looks. How does it play? And I think that you kind of need to depend on other people for. Where I don't think movies, it's like, all right, well, so what happens in the second act? But it's just different. It's contradictory. I know that, but I just feel like movies, the least you can know going into a piece of art, the better. Whereas games, I feel like that's perhaps not the case.
Sometimes there are spoilers with games.
Yeah, that's fair. But like you said, if you're not planning on buying the game, or if you're that big a fan of what that person is contributing to the experience, it's not that brutal. I guess. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I had like the kind of twists in Last of Us 2, like for sure, spoiled for me. But you're right. Like I probably would never be playing the game. Like I only know the first one from watching like playthroughs. So yeah, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But I don't know. At the same time, like I hate modern movie trailers that just give everything away, and just
I try to avoid
hate
those.
that. So I don't know. I kind of want to be in the camp of like don't spoil things, but yeah, you kind of have to show off the gameplay and what it's capable of. So
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the screen goes black
I'm
at
up
the
to
end. You
camp.
can't see. Look away. Spoiler-free gameplay.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
How does that work?
Well, so some of the games, especially with you being able to download, especially on consoles, you can try it for a little bit. Like I know the higher end.
Yeah, a lot of them have demos and
Yeah,
stuff.
that's fascinating too. And it's kind of like a dealer, dealing illicit materials.
Psst, kid, come here.
Here's the first taste.
get a
It's free.
taste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you better be a good game if you're going to do that. Because
It seems like it would require it.
I would hope so. Dice, how do you how do you take games in? Do you try it before you buy it, or
I kind of try to treat it very similarly to movies, and where I don't want to know very much, because that could take away from my experience. Even if it is like a multi-path kind of thing, there's always the chance that I'll end up going down that path unintentionally, being like, well, shit, I know exactly what's happening now. So, and especially if it's horror games, it's kind of part of the experience to get the shit scared out of you. So if you know a jump scare is coming, whoops.
yeah?
But I like to go in relatively blind. I'll read like the summary, or maybe I've heard something from someone, or seen just a little bit of gameplay from one of my favorite Let's Players, and been like, okay, I'll stop here, because I actually have interest in this. I want to play it. And then I'll go through it and come back to them.
Yeah, I come from, again, pre-internet days of gaming, and me and my friend, I don't remember if we chipped in together, or I just remember we were playing in my room, and it was the once you die you pass the controller kind of deal, because it's a one-player game, Resident Evil, and we played, and there's a jump scare when you're going down a hall with windows in the original, and both of us jumped during that, and we both looked at each other, we're like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like to have that, like that horror movie element to a game. Like it was the first time that I know I experienced something like that, where you can be jump scared from a video game. That was such a, you want to talk about nostalgia. That is like, that moment is something that I keep trying to harken back to. And it was just, that was the beginning.
You, mortuary assistant. Trust me.
Is it on
It
any of the
sounds
consoles?
awesome.
It's on computer only so far.
Yeah, my Apple doesn't like the computer games.
Ooh, no.
Listen, I'm game to experience anything. It's just I need to be able to play it on something.
It might get to a point where I thought I heard something from the developer. This is one of those cases where it's an indie thing, might have been crowdfunded, and it was made, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, by like one guy. So that's understandable where it's taking a while to get to other platforms. But I thought I had heard he said that would happen sometime. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
I'm listen. I'm down to experience anything. And again, like I don't want to be the complainer about free shit, but people tend to throw stuff my way and say, "Would you mind doing the Charlie Boy thing with this game?" And it's worse things could happen. I'll say that much. And
True.
I know that there's some sort of it's a jump scare game, right? It's a horror game. Mortuary system?
It's most definitely a horror game. It has story. You don't have to follow along with the story, so to speak. It can be just a jump scare, creepy,
Okay.
play in the dark kind of thing. But there are multiple endings, to my understanding. 5, perhaps. I've gotten 1. And shockingly enough, I don't know how the fuck I did this, but first round through it, I did it right. But there's a lot.
Congrats.
Yeah,
Do it
there's
wrong
a lot of levels.
4 more times.
I know. Apparently, I need to fuck it up, and then we'll see what happens. I might have been wrong. I might have gotten 2, but there's different ways to go about it. It can be repetitive, sure, but I think he's added more. The developer, the creator of the game, he's added more, so that it'll be more interesting, depending on how you go about things. And I don't want to reveal too much, but I think you get a general idea of what it's about just from the title.
Yeah, I can tell you with experience that my subscribers, they enjoy me being uncomfortable. Hence all of those weird French extremist movies. The spicy,
Sadists.
what was it? The spicy nut challenge that Emily and I did.
Oh,
That was we made a lot of money, but man, that was torture.
You did the hot nut challenge?
Oh yeah, I put nuts in my mouth. It was hot.
Is it the progressive one where there's like 5
I've-
different
yeah.
levels of hot
It
nuts?
sucked.
Yeah.
It sucked. I wanted to stop at
Really?
2. And
I've got a couple of those, and I just haven't done it yet. But
Well,
I got a couple
I love
nuts.
spicy things.
yeah,
what can I
I'm
say?
a bitch
Yeah, I got a
when it comes
couple.
to spicy, so you
Well-
might be able to handle better than me.
The reason why nobody in the entire history and trends that we're on YouTube has ever seen me do anything like that is because that could literally,
Oh yeah,
not
well,
exaggerating, kill me.
Yeah, health is you can't.
We
you can't
won't
mess
do
around
that.
with that. Right.
No, that's. I tried a piece of jalapeno once. I almost died. It's not good.
Yeah. So I think I
In the
wanted to
most
quit.
painful way possible.
I think I wanted to quit after the second nut, and then somebody dropped like a $50 super chat. I was like, oh,
You whore.
Really?
I can't make
See,
them
that's
feel
awesome.
bad.
You even made
Yeah,
money off
right,
of it.
right. No,
You
I
made
did the
money
script
off
for
it.
They
like
want to see me
one ship
tortured.
challenge, and all I did was make people around me laugh. Like there was nothing that.
You
I
gotta
mean, I
stream
guess
it.
that's a reward into itself. No, it wasn't even filmed. It was just like, okay, let me try this chip thing.
You
and,
did this for free.
It was hot. Yeah, it was. It was good times. You know, I like spicy stuff.
Oh, so you like
that's-
spicy,
it's
so it may
just
not
me.
be that big a deal for you.
Oh yeah.
The
Oh yeah,
capsaicin
I've done
has
like
no
many
effect.
of those. I love it. It has effect, but oh, it's so great. It's like people have explained like the runner's high to me, and it's like no, like you don't feel good from running. Like come on, but I do get that weird like euphoric feeling from hot stuff. Like
That's
I
the
don't know, I just love
adrenaline
it.
and
It
body
feels
going,
like
are you serious?
yeah. I
some
love
switches,
it.
something's
so
wrong.
I'm going to bring you pain.
So I don't know. I'm a huge fan of that. Like whenever they offer like an option at a restaurant, it's like yes, go the hottest. And then
Oh wow.
I've done plenty of those like wing challenges things.
Oh,
They're kind of
yeah.
fun.
You might be
you
all right
know,
with it.
sometimes you get the wings for free. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
eat it
I
a
don't know. I
certain
want to
amount of
try the
time.
hot nut thing. I have the things. I just haven't done them. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Do I really want to eat nuts on stream?
Do
I
it-
don't think so.
Do
but
it
we'll
for
see.
an audience. You may make some money. That's my only
Just got a
advice.
Seems like a
whiteboard
private
in the
thing.
back that says this donation for this. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Wait. Where'd I? It was here.
Huh.
So make your voice heard and tell tell Gray to
Tell
Get his
Gray to
nuts
put nuts
in
in
an
his mouth
audience.
for money.
Well, I mean, I was going to do it for free, just not on camera.
Yeah.
Sorry, in this economy.
But yeah,
Listen,
it's true. Maybe my business plan is
get
the
an
best.
only
Maybe
stands
I should-
and open your nut challenge.
Yes, eating nuts. Eating nuts. That's great for that site in particular. It's lovely. It could work. The marketing.
Yeah, you could do clickbait. A bait and switch. I'm gonna put nuts
Well,
in my
you're not
mouth. Oh,
lying.
you thought? Oh no, they're just nuts. Sorry, I diverted. So wait. Going back to the
hot nut talk.
no, we diverted.
Oh,
it's
okay,
it's my fault. I apologize. So, how much of a current thing is this Gamergate 2? Is it
So I guess there's two parts of it that I kind of forgot to mention.
Okay.
So there's kind of one last little quote from Kim Belair that I wanted to say. She said, "I don't think it's pie in the sky thinking to go like, hey, maybe we can invite white dudes to play as other people and experience different things through somebody else's eyes. And they don't like it. We have to start thinking we're not losing, they're losing. We're losing because we're not going to let them stand in the way of progress and innovation." So again, it's these kind of quotes that the sentiment isn't necessarily wrong. It's like, I don't know. I always loved playing as like diverse, different characters and everything like that. But when they kind of, I don't know, mixed with those baby comments that she did, picky baby comments, the speech comes off very tone deaf to a certain, I don't know what you want to call it, like portion of the audience. So that really sucks. So that got everyone up in oh, okay.
sorry?
So that kind of got everyone up in arms. Now, apparently, I should probably quit addressing it because you know what you're doing, and I'm just, drawing
Bring
attention
attention
to
me trying to produce.
but it really put this forward, and then people were digging through everything they could to find like previous tweets, any part of like her speech or anything like that they could frame in a way that sounds really horrible. Again, I think it's really optics on this. If she had not used kind of the picky baby language and just kind of explained like, hey, nobody's losing by offering like different characters, and I don't know. I don't think that would be a horrible message to hear, but kind of the way that she did it just really turned everybody off. So
Yeah.
because there were a bunch of people digging through everything, a journalistic piece from Kotaku was released, and it's kind of a big piece running defense for Sweet Baby Inc. And they interviewed, I believe, also Belair. I know they interviewed like at least two people from the company and got like a bunch of different quotes. And then they seem to address kind of some of the bigger things we've already talked about. The whole
Is that what was brought up Thursday?
they don't mention like
Sweet Baby Inc is not
so
what you think it does, or something like that.
Exactly. They had just released that like Thursday. So it took them a little while to kind of release that. And then a lot of the people kind of commented towards the author of that article. I'm trying to bring it up. Alyssa Mercante. She's the one who wrote that article, did like the interviews for it. A lot of people kind of replied to her that, this article doesn't mention anything about the Sweet Baby Inc CEO being a full-blown racist, because we have feelings. I have a feeling this article doesn't mention it. So a lot of people were kind of attacking her online on Twitter specifically. So then she came back with, "Hi, you can't be racist against white people. Thanks for tuning in." The fact that they were kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, like running defense for them, is kind of one of the things that brings this back to kind of Gamergate 1.0, I guess now. They're calling this Gamergate 2.0 because it is another games journalism outlet kind of running defense for people in a way, if you will. That seems to be the main thing. And then there's certain things like funding that kind of ties this together. Now I can't remember the name of it. It's Sweet something is the possible company that not Sweet. I should have gathered a little bit more. There's a bunch of different like threads online that you can kind of find. People go through the connections, but there is this one person who was accused of a heinous crime back in Gamergate. So Zoe Quinn accused somebody of rape, and then they ended up taking their life a few days later after they were ousted from their company. This guy, Alex Huoka, his sister inherited all of his games, all the royalties from everything that he had kind of created. And there's accusations that his sister then used that money to fund this other company, which then funded Sweet Baby Inc. So I don't know. I'm not sure about exactly if that is correct or anything like that. I haven't seen like proof. It's kind of accusations and then kind of tenuous connections. It could be. There's other connections between the players involved, like certain people who kind of gained prominence and then started some of these consulting companies. So there seems to be some sort of relation that way. But the main thing that I've seen is kind of these games journalists kind of running defense for these certain companies and kind of pitting the game fans as the bad guys in it, if you will. Like they're all just racist. It's just horrible white people, horrible white men who are not wanting any sort of diversity in there.
So
It seems to be the relation, if you will.
between the woke side doing some things that are, I don't think very many people that aren't invested in one side or the other of the story would endorse. Between that, the pitchforks on the one side and now the pitchforks on the other side, what is this civil nuclear war that's happening in the game community? What is like the end goal there?
Burn everything to the ground.
It's a good question. Yeah. So I guess the one side is keep games authentic to like why they were liked in the first one. Like you don't have to go ahead and so like Alan Wake gets brought up a lot. Supposedly there's a character who got race swapped between Alan Wake 1 and Alan Wake 2. I don't know. I never really followed the games or anything like that, but they're kind of taking games and elements of them that people like, and they're kind of adding diversity to that in a kind of unnatural way, if you will. I think people don't like the whole ham-fisted approach, if you will. It comes off as like a little hard-handed to the one side. And I think the other side isn't doing themselves any favor by doing quotes like, these picky babies don't want to see this. They can't possibly see it through any other eyes. And then with the game journalists kind of taking the side against game fans, it sucks. I think that alone is just the fans feel like they're being attacked again. So this is kind of Gamergate 2.0. I don't know if you remember like all those articles that came out in the first one, but it's the gamer is dead. The white male gamer is over. Like they kind of kept talking about this. It seemed like the journalists were kind of against the fans of games, but it sounds like people just want good games that don't seem like they're ideologically driven. But that being said, like, a story element being woke or whatever isn't necessarily what people are saying. It's just like, this feels unnatural. It feels really forced. Like, just give us a good game.
Right.
I don't know. I could be wrong, and I might be giving one side way too much leniency over the other one. But it seems like both sides kind of have points.
Well, the extremes are doing way too.
They're kind of alienated the audience.
Right. But the extreme ends of either spectrum are just going a little too hard with things because
for sure.
I don't like all three of us have said we represent different spectrums as far as the average gamer is concerned. I think most people, loud or otherwise, would look for a game to be good first.
I think so.
I hope so.
Yeah. Because I feel like if you're gonna, even if you revert back to whatever MGGA version of make games great again, if you make it all white guys, if it sucks, how much traction do you think that game's gonna get? And on the flip side, if you make United States of Benetton game where everybody's represented, but it sucks. That's not doing any favors either. Dice, we talked again. keep going back to movies because this is where I'm comfortable.
This is my language.
Well, we talked about they, them.
I was going to say, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, same thing, really. I mean, did it do any harm? No. Did it do any good? Not really.
Right. Right.
Well, look, that's, like I said in the stream
A year ago?
A year?
Yeah. Yeah, it was at least a year.
While,
Yeah.
a hot minute. That's the first time that I've seen an out non-binary character represented on the screen. Great. Did I really relate to the character? Not much.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, it's like, yeah, you get like maybe half a point for that, but you didn't give them depth. You didn't give them something really, really important to do. And thus, I really don't care very much or more so than I would if it were straight male.
Right.
So what?
Yeah, because there's nothing noteworthy about the movie where it's just like, all right, great, you threw us a bone.
It's a slasher.
Yeah, sort of. Like Brian would say, they're checking boxes, and I don't know how many people are happy with okay, this boring movie just has really good representation in it. And like, is that the goal? Is that the end game?
No.
And I didn't bring up the quote, but in her speech, Kim Belair also mentions like this isn't about ticking boxes; it's about authentic representation. So it seems like even she doesn't like that. It just we needed characters that tick every one of these boxes. Again, I don't know how many layers it has to go through before it ends up with the end product. But sorry, I should have grabbed some of positive comments that she made too. It seems like she didn't want that like horrible just plaster over something representation. Like they're looking for authentic representation, which hell, that sounds like would anyone really be against that? But
Yeah.
I don't know. That mixed with her comments doesn't come off the best.
Louise, as an LGBTQ plus person, I'm not looking for representation and everything. If it's there, great. But if not, I'm not offended. I get offended when it's shoehorned in for no reason, when it adds nothing. Right. I
think that's what a lot of the game fans are saying. And instead that gets painted as, oh, okay, so you just want it to be the status quo. You don't want anything to change. Okay. Like,
right.
It sucks.
Right.
But that is kind of one of the reasons why these consultation companies are brought in, to give that authenticity. And, if they're not delivering on that, then maybe they shouldn't keep being brought in. But the idea is to not make it shoehorned and not make it. Yeah.
As they say, the term in the LGBTQ community, regardless of what media it is, it's queer baiting. Saying, hey, look, we've got these queer characters. And then you get there and there's no purpose other than their whole personality is, hey, I like women. That's it.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing going back to films. I remember Star Wars, one of the sequels, they had people kiss out of focus, a gay couple kiss out of focus.
Yes,
in the background, how could you?
And it pleased,
when celebrating.
It pleased nobody. Like, people were pissed that it was shoehorned in there, and the people that are, a part of the community that it represents are like, yeah, you can kind of see it if you really look hard.
Where is it?
Yeah.
What's the timestamp?
The same thing with Lightyear. A rather unnoteworthy movie otherwise, but there's a scene of a gay couple kissing before a door shuts. And again, people are making a big stink that it's woke. And then there's people that are like, oh, what was there? And I tend to agree. Like, if you're offended with kissing in family movies, don't ever show Sleeping Beauty, because that's kissing. I agree. If you don't
consent.
Right. Right. Even worse.
Snow White. Hello.
Yeah. Don't have sexualized characters in your family movies. I agree, but take it all away then. Either that or just shut up about it. Like, if you're gonna go in, what is it? Go in for a pound, go in for $1 or something. These dumb Brits.
In for a pound, in for a penny.
Yeah, that's it. Backwards. Pound is
yeah, that one works.
And
which doesn't make sense. Do they have pennies? Wait a minute.
Yeah. I think it's the other way around. But yeah, in for a penny, in for a pound. Like, it's either all or nothing. If you're going to make that big a stink about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sucks because there's been so many of these controversies that are just, they seem like such little things, like a flag in the background of what is it, Across the Spider-Verse
Oh
or
my
something like
He's
that.
got
where
a-
it's like,
God, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
it's
this
a
is a modern
flag
day
and a
teen.
pin.
Would they not have
Yeah.
like something of modern day in it? Like, should it be only 80s stuff in their room? Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's odd.
Yeah,
Because
but
the 80s were totally
that-
straight.
that's
Yeah.
the other thing too. Like, can you explain Boy George to me then? Because
Yeah.
like
Boy George,
Motley Crue, Poison, like,
Grace Jones.
sure. There's like so much.
David
that
Bowie.
one's harder to explain.
Yeah, David
Yeah.
Bowie. There's a NB icon right there. It's just so like, oh, this only started in the last 5 years. Did it, or did you only start noticing it in the last 5 years? Because
I've got some bad news for you.
yeah, go watch The Danish Girl. How about that? How about that? It seems to me there isn't a game in recent time who have been able to be diverse and do it right. Right, and I think it should come natural. That's just me, though. It shouldn't be noticeable, and I think
It shouldn't
if
be
you're,
in your face. Like, hey, look.
yeah, they shouldn't be back patting over the fact that they have some sort of inclusion. Like that shouldn't be a thing that you're focusing on. Make a good game first, because it is a business first. I just don't. I don't understand making a stink one way or another about political shit when in a capital. Yeah, all right. In a capitalist nature, in a business where the most money for a product, that's how you know whether or not something's good. You'll know whether or not people enjoy the thing. That's what you're shooting for, is money, because you're a business, and not street cred, so to
And it
speak.
does seem like we might have turned a corner on some of that, like with isn't it Bob Iger's recent comments, where it kind of sounds like they're kind of getting rid of some I don't know, ideology at Disney that kind of led to some of this I don't know what you'd call it, like non-authentic representation.
Pandering.
But the way
yeah.
that everything kind of, pandering. Yeah, that would be a much better way of saying that.
The virtue
I don't know.
signaling.
I would hope that, maybe they do see like, okay, well, this isn't necessarily bringing in more dollars, so let's maybe go with quality content over stuff that
Shocker.
appeals
Concept.
to certain demographics. I don't know. I hope so, but we'll see. Are they ever going to be completely honest with this? But like it takes quite a while for something to go to script, get approved, go to shooting, get edited, then finally make the final product. So I don't know, maybe everything that we're seeing is years in the making from them, especially when it's something as big as like Disney. So they might be slow to kind of anything that we're seeing might have been hot a few years ago when it was like originally conceived. Who knows if if it were released sooner, if that would have been more effective or something like that. But I don't know. It seems like they might be adjusting the way that they're going. I'm not sure if the game industry would be doing the same, or if they, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I have some hope.
I think there needs to be a ceasefire between the civil nuclear war, and ask the two respective
luck.
sides, what is the most important thing to you? And if representation is the most important thing to a woke gamer, then sure, just be like, all right, so if this game fails, we tried it for you and it doesn't work. Here's representation. This game sucks. You wanted it, you got it. And then they can point and say, see, we did exactly what you wanted. The most important thing was representation. We did it. The game sucks. We didn't put any money into the actual game quality because you said the most important thing was representation. We're a business. We can't afford to make another game like this because nobody's paying for it. And on the other side, what is the most important thing to them? White guys or like whatever.
Strong, masculine white guys,
yeah.
but not too masculine, because then it's gay.
Right. So no female damsel in distress. None of that. Here you go. Here's Arnold Schwarzenegger in a game, and that is the most important thing to you. This game sucks. By the way, this didn't make any money, and we can't maintain this I don't know. Same thing backwards.
Maintain this audacity.
Right. Wait, what? I'm just waiting for the day someone gets pissed and says that Mary Jane is accused of being into bestiality because Spider-Man's technically part spider.
Or at least
Technically.
sort of furry.
She's
I
a
don't know.
mutant lover.
Well, by that logic, everybody's into mosquitoes
Ew.
because we've all been stung by a mosquito at least once in our lives, no?
Yeah, but I think she was actually involved with a Spider-Man
Oh,
at some
okay.
point.
See, I'm not
Depending on the
well
storyline.
versed. I'm not well versed on the
This
spider.
was consensual.
But yeah, I agree with what Louise is saying. I don't know if I can look at Mary Jane the same way after that comment. So
Thanks,
you're
Troy.
right. He is kind of like
Thank you.
proto-furry.
Well, in that case, I have a question about Black Cat and Spider-Man.
But-
yeah, fair enough. Catwoman as well.
I think, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm thinking ridiculously here, but I really feel like, I don't know, some mediary can be like, okay, so look, you're complaining about this thing that does not affect the quality of the game. You're complaining about this thing. It does not affect the quality of the game. These are businesses that need to make money. How can you prove that quality isn't the most important thing? Because, a wide audience, the one that, not making all of the fuss, they just care about the quality. And while they don't scream on the internet about it, they certainly put their money into things that are good. So, what are we supposed to do here for you guys? Yes, I know. We'll
This is
I
crucify.
don't know if
true.
either side's
Yeah.
going to treat you well with that.
I
I'm not
was-
saying I'll be the mediator.
Oh no, you're signed up now. Too late. Get ready.
No,
Get your body armor.
world's best moderator mediator. You got this. We believe in you.
Yeah. I'll be right
So
behind you.
I don't know. Hopefully, this was just a business attempt where it's like, okay, I'm told that this will make my business whatever criticism proof. This representation will bring us in a wider audience. If it wasn't effective, hopefully they won't hire the consulting firm again in the future. Hopefully the problem will kind of correct itself, but I'm not sure.
Vince did bring
I
something
don't know.
up. Sorry.
Yeah, please go right ahead.
He brought something up in our discussion Thursday. Again, that darn kiddish channel. If you want to see the entire chaos unfold, where while I don't completely agree with the sentiment, if there's a big problem with these sensitivity companies, some transparency into just what it is that they're responsible for in a game. I'm not thinking complete transparency from every step of the process, but we're behind this. This is what we have to do with. You're complaining about nothing. We don't have anything to do with that. Is it fair? Not exactly, but you can quiet a lot of the voices by telling them that this is what we're responsible for. Although maybe the big company that hired them doesn't want that information out.
I've had a couple thoughts on that since then, because
Okay.
one of the things that he was saying is maybe give everybody credit for this, so essentially everyone would get a writing credit for what part they brought to it. Would that not be kind of like the issue that we've heard of from television, from movies, where every producer kind of wants to get their say in it, be able to say, hey, I contributed this part to it.
Yeah.
So aren't you going to get a million different notes from a million different people saying let's change this element? Cool, I get a credit for that now. And then you could compile those credits to make a better, CV for yourself or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. It seems like that would get more notes, because then you'd actually get credit for them, not just this company consulted on this, but it's no, I've made these changes in there. I've suggested this stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure if that would add to it or take away from it, but it kind of seems like it would be more incentive to give more notes.
Yeah.
It
I'm
feels
trying to
like it would kind of be on some different level, almost like the audience. You're not going to please everybody. That
Right,
works
right.
for everybody internally too.
Well, I don't know. Maybe if they have like behind the scenes footage, if the game's going to be produced at a really expensive amount, something like that. Because I know when it comes to Lost, I watched as much shit as I could, and behind the scenes footage, they started off the executive producer at ABC. He wanted a Survivor type show, and that's where that idea started. He wanted something to compete with Survivor,
Yes,
but
I
like,
could see that. Yeah.
and then he wanted
They're
like a
stranded on an
drama.
island. Okay.
Right?
Survivor.
Yeah, that's where it ends.
No,
So to see like, okay, island. That's all they took from the executive producer, and then
people stuck on island. Good luck.
right. Then the people with the artistic brains decided, okay, we can go in different directions, and JJ made sure there was a mystery box element, and it's fascinating to know how something transcended over the course of the creation process. But I feel like the creation process, especially with some sort of artistic elements, it's natural. Like if you just take one piece out of the pre-production, it's not going to be the same story regardless, like a butterfly effect, so to speak, where things are moving along in a particular way, and step 4 is due to something that happened with step 2, and whether or not you like step 2, like you don't get where 4 is without that process. It's not. I don't know. I don't think I'm explaining it well, but yeah, I've talked myself
No, I
into
get where you're
circles.
going.
Do you really? Because I don't understand what the hell
I
I'm saying.
think so. I might be hard pressed to repeat it back, but yes, I
Can you
followed
TLDR
you. It's where you stop.
Cliff notes.
Yeah, because I at a certain point my brain's like, I don't know what the next step. We don't know what we're
The
doing
moments of
anymore.
self-consciousness where the brain goes, no, wait.
It happens all the time. Or my mouth is still going, and my brain's like, no, forget it, just end it. But yeah, I hopefully I got that across. Yeah.
No, it did. But yeah, I wish both sides would kind of
Relax.
calm down a bit and
Right.
really be less sensitive, because it seems like the one side is looking at anybody who's associated with Sweet Baby Inc, looking at any tweet they have, digging up anything they can on them. And it seems like the other side is like looking for any sort of racist tweet,
Right.
any sort of
Right.
like whatever, and painting everybody with the same picture, where it's like, not all these consulting firms are doing the same thing to the same extent. Not all of them have the same control over any individual product. Some of them are brought in for like legitimate, authentic reasons. It's like, okay, well, I want, this is a period piece in this time. I want these as authentic as I can to these people. Let's bring in somebody who can give me more consultation on this. Like, hell yeah. Like, that sounds great. But I don't know. It sucks. Everyone's kind of getting painted with the same wide swath, if you will. Everyone just keeps getting put to the extremes, and that just kind of sucks.
I think part of the problem is too, if you look hard enough for something, if what you're looking through even comes close, you're gonna change the narrative. That, look, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like the threat, so to speak. I don't know if I would use the word threat to describe that clip.
For
But
sure. Because there's literally another part in that same thing where she's talking about it, and she's like, essentially like get to know the financial department, because there is often more funding for narrative consultation than you'd assume. It seems like it's like a business strategy with this thing. It doesn't seem like it's, like, I think any other way of selling it would be like, once one door is closed, look at any other doors you
Right.
have to make this sale.
She's clearly advocating for bank robbery. That's what that actually
She's
sounds
pushing
like
everyone
it.
to hold them at gunpoint. That's what she wants. Either
Go to
you're
the
going
money
to put
men.
the black character in this game, or I will shoot you.
and give me money too. The gun,
yeah.
don't worry about the gun
But I
that
mean,
I have
like-
in your head.
Earlier in the speech, when she's talking about like, just talking to the financial department or marketing department, because they actually might have more money set aside for something like this. it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, as a consultant, like it seems like you'd want to try and get to know the different departments and see if, if one department has a door closed, perhaps you can open it in a different department. I don't know. That doesn't seem like they're trying to get one over on everybody. It just is the way that you kind of do this in business. But I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them too much leeway just because I don't know why. I'm just such a great person.
I think that's part of the problem, though, is the two hard, loud sides are not thinking about, well, maybe, maybe there's some nuance here. That's not being done, and that's frustrating.
It feels like it's not being done on either side.
No,
which
right.
Really
That's
sucks.
what I meant.
So,
if I didn't,
everything just kind of, they're linking to everybody in Sweet Baby Inc and saying like, hey, they're racist because of these tweets and because they believe in this sort of ideology. That's also racist. And then every comment on Twitter is just being called racist. So I don't know. It's a bunch of people just pointing at each other saying racist at this point.
right.
But,
Like
no,
the scene
you.
from
No, you.
the pod people,
So this isn't over then, Greg? This is still going to continue
it's
for a bit?
kind of not. So kind of the latest thing is, I don't know if you're too familiar with like Dragon Ball, but Akira Toriyama unfortunately just passed away recently. So Dragon Ball official tweeted out about that. And then this same dude who kind of started this all by trying to shut down the Sweet Baby Inc detected Steam curator group. He also did this tweet saying that Toriyama gave us the best and worst black characters in anime in the same series. It took range to do that. That was his tweet, and that happened the March 7th, the day that they announced that unfortunately he had passed away. So because he was just brought back to Twitter, this Chris Kindred guy, because of his ban for trying to get that stream taken down, essentially trying to get everyone to mass flag it. Because he said that, now he's got a whole bunch of anime people against him as well, because, this is the dude that created Dragon Ball. It kind of seems like a timing thing. Like, would you do this, like, right as somebody's name? Like, okay, if you want to, make some case for that, I think you could wait a few days or something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be this one, but that really ignited a whole bunch of fire under this, even more fire than was already there. And, again, since each side is kind of looking for the thing, now this is blowing up that, like, really they're saying Dragon Ball is racist. And that's not exactly what he's saying in there. He does say that there's some bad characters in there and there's some great characters. So I don't know. But yeah, it's a bunch of people looking at stuff to be mad at each other.
Yeah. There's
sucks.
a bad take, and by reacting in a ridiculous, overzealous fashion, you guys are proving each other's little narrative right in each direction, and it's just like none of it is right. It's just
you're all wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we've kind of brought it up a couple of times. I feel like people who aren't making a big stink about it, they know what they want, and I really would venture to say that quality is the most important thing to people who are spending their money on stuff, no matter what the art form is. Yeah. So what? They're just going tit for tat and getting worse and worse. I mean, is the gamer side of the Civil War going on from that? Well, now it appears to be.
I think so. I mean, like, the gamers use gamer words and stuff. So there's a bunch of replies to him that are definitely not favorable and are straight up racist and stuff. So I don't know. Again, it's kind of the worst on both sides. I don't think this guy is the best that, representation has to offer, but perhaps he has a point. And, he could have done like a thread in a little bit, maybe not the day that it's announced that he dies, that, hey, he had some really good representation. He also had some poor representation. Here's why we're around to try and make it more authentic. Something like that. I don't think that would come off horribly, but when it's just a few words on the day that he died, it's going to be inflammatory. It's going to definitely cause a commotion, if you will. And that seems to be what happened there. But he is getting really horrible replies to that as well. They are real. So it sucks.
So during the stream on Thursday, I tried to make a loose comparison to I wrote up Kevin Spacey and the human being's despicable. I still enjoy some of his old work. I
love Seven, and I
Right.
just watched Usual Suspects. Like, that is amazing.
for the first time?
performance, But no,
Oh,
I
okay.
had to do it for the other podcast. But yeah, I was kind of watching it through new eyes because that other guy hadn't seen it at all. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. But yeah, it hits a little different knowing Spacey nowadays. But
right.
I don't know, it's different to me than like Cosby. Like, for some reason, I have this brain thing that like I can't see Cosby.
Well, you're
Like
being
it
racist.
completely ruined everything for me, I guess. It just, I don't know. The Huxtables don't hit the same anymore. I don't know.
That wholesome thing went away.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what?
Where like I can see Spacey as like these horrible characters. It's like, yeah, he really like melds into those characters.
Well,
if you
yeah.
will.
Okay. So he
works.
plays a villain. Yeah. All right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I take it back. Thank you, Dice, for putting that in there. Yeah. This is the channel name. That darn kid. Tell him I sent you because that's my real life secret. I go there to talk about real life stuff, but
No, it's not a secret anymore.
quite a crew over there. And if you like me and Brian arguing, you're gonna love Thinkers because oh boy.
And there's supposed to be a very special guest this next Thursday.
I don't want to
So,
jinx it because
Yeah,
personal
I
things
think it's
happen.
going to happen, but I
Okay.
don't know if we're supposed to announce it. But
Yeah, that's fair.
not just the usual fare that you see here, but maybe some big people who are making waves will be
Yeah.
there this Thursday.
Some
good time.
non-fiction topics and some heated discussions. By all means, check it out. So the connection I was making between my ridiculous comparison with Kevin Spacey was if I were to ask you, both of you, if you had 10 things that you were picking up, whether it be film, game, music, anything, how many of those 10 would affect whether or not you purchase the item based on somebody affiliated with it that is in a back end pre-production role?
I don't think it would. So there's a ton of actors that I really kind of hate their political view, their ideological view. It doesn't stop me from watching them. Like specifically, I don't like Mark Ruffalo that much.
Woo!
I really liked his performance in Poor Things, if we're going back to that. That doesn't necessarily take me out of it. But if I were to hear that, like, Bill Cosby wrote this, Bill Cosby produced it, that could take me out of it.
But there wasn't any sleeping
don't
in
know.
that movie. That was
Yeah,
that's bad. I'm sorry.
I gotta be honest, like, I don't know. I've tried to separate the art from the artist where it's like Michael Jackson, I can hear any one of those songs and it doesn't take me out of it. Like, I want to dance, but I don't know, something about that.
It's because
I have a weird mental block where I
Cosby
can't
never
get over
played a
him
heel.
for some reason.
I think that's what you're.
It could be. And he was supposed to be, like the
wholesome
voice
person.
of reason or whatever. Yes,
Right.
wholesome. Yeah, exactly. Where it feels like there's something that really switched there where it's like Spacey, I don't feel like I ever really knew him. Like I don't know of a ton of interviews where he was the real person. Like he really dissolved into those characters. So I feel like I can look at them as characters where I feel like I was supposed to actually see Cosby and Dr. Huxtable.
Yeah,
But
there's
again, maybe I'm looking at this wrong.
I'll make it local here. There's a documentary here on Netflix. I don't know if it's in every Netflix, but there was a television star here, and the show was called Jimmy'll Fix It, and it was very Mr. Rogers /
Yeah,
Cosby.
I sadly know that story.
Okay.
Oof.
And turns out that if you have access, if it's on Netflix or just look into him, Jimmy Savile, yeah, that is another case where the guy basically played, again, Mr. Rogers blended with. I mean, his hair was bizarre and his, whatever. But turns out this guy was really, really a villain the whole time. So I don't know if that's a right comparison, but Dice,
Yes.
of 10, how many would your purchases be affected by so and so's involved in the
I think it
pre-production end?
depends. It would depend on. This will sound real good. Please don't shoot. It depends on how severe said person is in real life, how much they had to do with whatever it is, and just how much interest I have in said thing, said product. And if at the time I happen to know, I bought Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2 before I knew, and refused to buy the third one for a long while. It was in the discount bin, it was almost free, so I finally decided, alright, fine. This is for the sake of trying to collect the art, because I'm sure several other people have said something kind of like this, which is one bad apple might not ruin the entire thing. So what about the rest of the people that were involved who had genuinely good intentions and just wanted to create something?
So how many of 10?
How many of 10? Well, let's see. Maybe 3.
All right, so it would be 30% of your buying habits. I mean, in the horror community, people make a big stink if Jordan Peele's attached to something. And when Candyman was being advertised, I'm like, he's a producer.
Yeah, it's not his movie.
Right. You guys are giving this movie, it's not Jordan Peele, the director, the writer. He's just producing it. He's got a different job on set, and he might make some money off the back end. And that movie was disappointing, to say the very least. And for as much credit as Jordan Peele got from the horror community before the movie came out, they certainly didn't hold him to account after the movie was not that great. So, relax. I think listen, every time Scorsese does a movie, I'm there. So it's a bit of hypocrisy coming from me. And like you said, Dice, it's a bit of a case by case basis. I mean, people have certain actors that they'll always go see, and certain directors and whatever. But I think we're giving, for better or worse, too much credit / power to people that don't affect the entire piece of art that we're taking in.
Yeah. I think I also kind of shift focus. So, bad person A, we've just realized that they did this shitty thing or that shitty thing, and that's not good. We don't want to support them. No, but, like I said, what about the cast, the crew, the writers? So I kind of shift focus. If there's like a movie where the director is an absolute piece of shit, Roman Polanski, then I'll shift focus and be like, well, what about the writers? The writers really helped make a really nice story. The actors did a great job. It's a classic for a reason, as far as like Rosemary's Baby. So,
well, so to kind of use a comparison, I'm not sponsored, but here you can see who my microphone is made by.
I sure can.
Dad jokes, give them up.
I'm leaving.
So somebody cannot agree with many of the things I've said or done, and there are plenty of them, trust me. But they could say, you know what, I'm never going to buy a Shure microphone again because that's the one that Charles uses. And like, that's not really a fair judgment, because like, again, I'm not sponsored. I'm not trying to display this, but just because it was a tiny piece of the production doesn't mean that it affects the entire process, I guess.
For sure. And with some of these like studio movies, like to kind of go back to like the Marvels, and actually doesn't that have a tie-in as well to Candyman? Isn't it the same director?
The same director. Yes.
I think it is. So, like she denounced the movie, like essentially the studio made her do a cut where she took out like 30 minutes of it. And then they came back to her like, okay, you need to do another cut, and cut out, I think it's like another 20 minutes. So essentially like 45 minutes got cut out of this movie. So by the end of it, she's saying that she doesn't want her name attached to it. It's not her movie. It's Marvel's movie or the studio's movie. I don't know. That kind of sucks. But I wonder in every situation, is, like the director really like the end all in it, or are they being overruled by a whole bunch of people? Like, is it kind of, by committee on some of these larger studios and everything? I don't know. It kind of sucks, but I guess each piece of art is a little bit different. And, was there one person who is the overall say on all of this or not? It's hard to say, but in that particular one, it sucks. A lot of hate went towards that director, and I see elements in that movie that could have made it so much better if they had like gone with these kind of plot points that I think they were trying to do. Like there was this whole plot point about like you can't save everybody type of deal, where it seemed like Miss Marvel really wanted to save everybody, and it seems like Captain Marvel might have at one point taught her that lesson. It's just like abandoned in the film. There's unfortunately a lot of those that just kind of get abandoned.
Right.
I want to give credit, and the same thing with Napoleon. It seems like Ridley Scott has this like 3.5 or 4 hour version that maybe fleshes out a whole lot more, but I hate this studio version that we got. It felt like a Wikipedia article where it just like this event happened, this event, like there's no characterization. I wanted to learn more about him, and I feel like I didn't get that. But is that his fault, or did the studio say we need this cut that has this much? It's the same thing with I guess Rebel Moon. It's supposed to be a really rated R version, but for Netflix he had to really cut it down. I'm not excited to watch the longer version of them based off of the shorter version that I've seen of each of those films, but I don't know. Am I actually seeing the artist's vision there? Apparently not. Apparently the longer version, the Snyder cut or the Ridley Scott cut, is going to be like the real version of that movie. I think that kind of sucks.
I agree with you to a certain point. I feel like if, we kind of brought this up Thursday. I feel like when something isn't working out, it seems like everybody tries to divorce themselves from the project. Oh, that's not what I wanted. But when it comes to credit, people just don't dissent, and like it's always like, yeah, we did a great job, even though I 6 months ago I didn't want to be a part of this, but since it worked, I'll take all the accolades. I feel like in the modern internet age of, there's a better cut available, I think before something comes out, the director either decides to keep his name attached or his or her or their, or if you're not happy with the final project, take your name off of it, or use a pseudonym. I mean, that's happened
the smaller
plenty of
people.
times. Right. I mean, it happened with Caligula, where everybody a lot of people didn't want to be associated with that film before it got released and took their names off of it. I mean, the credit for, I think cinematography was cinematography done by the production team. There's like no actual credit for certain things.
Hey, you want to take credit for this? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are certain things that I might have the credit wrong, but if you look at the credits on Caligula, people tapped out, and the title sequence is unique. But I feel like in this age of a Snyder cut, there's a better cut. We should know that in advance if that's like the thing. A director has a 5-hour version of a movie, even though the studio cut it down to 2. Before it comes out, say, hey, listen, I just took my name off this. Hopefully they'll give you my vision. I mean, some directors, listen, I know that there are certain directors that haven't reached a certain point where they can claim or fight for a final cut. Final cut is something that the director has last say. Not everybody can do that from the start. I understand that. But somebody like Ridley Scott, I would hope has some sort of final cut. Like if he hasn't proved himself yet, what are you hiring him for? Right. And I mean, this is where, to kind of go in the other direction, a lot of people give A24 credit for everything that they put their little logo on. Sometimes they're just buying a movie at a convention, and they didn't do anything. They just bought it and threw their logo on it. So what are you giving them credit for? Ooh, good eye, you bought something really neat there. So like it's really interesting the credit and the disdain that comes up, I don't know. I feel like you should get in front of the release of something if you really don't agree with whatever, and be judged based on that. Because if you don't agree with it, you take your name off it, you use a pseudonym, and if it gets a hell of a lot of credit, well, the studio wins. I don't know. That's just me.
It seems like that would be like the honest way to do it.
Honest.
I don't know if
we're not going to get much of that.
Well,
Hollywood.
and
What?
I'm not doing her any favors by not actually mentioning her name. I'm blanking on it, but the
Nia
director
DaCosta?
of Marvel's.
Nia DaCosta.
Thank you.
She
I
did-
knew it was
she
Nia,
did-
but I could not remember it, and I didn't want to just say Nia because I don't know her.
And she did direct the Marvels as well.
Yeah,
The Marvels
so-
and Candyman. Excuse me.
Yeah, and I think those are kind of the only two like major credits that she had. So I don't know. I think she'd already been announced as the director of this. So I think for her to like take her name off, I'm not sure if she contractually could or anything
Use
like
a
that, or if
pseudonym.
that would make it seem like a worse release than it actually had. If like the director even said no on it, like. I don't know
Yeah,
the
and-
Marvel contracts. I'm not sure if she could have contractually done that, but
That's fair.
she said
But-
it as much in the press that it's like, this is not my movie. This is not my cut.
All right, that's fair.
I don't know.
And
I didn't
and
know
she
this-
only has 3 movies that went wide. The one that we haven't mentioned is Little Woods.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have not seen that one, so I do
nor have I.
apologize. I did not mean to shortchange her on that.
No, it's fine.
kind of
But
the
like
2 major ones were those, but my bad.
right, and it plays into my point. She probably doesn't have that much of a resume yet, where she can throw her weight around, so to speak, and be like, all right, well, I'm not putting my name on this. And Marvel has kind of been notorious for like, yeah, we'll give you this great payday, but we're going to tell you everything to do here. And
Even
You
with
will be our
big,
whore.
yes, and even with big directors who have like that body of work behind him, like kind of famously Sam Raimi, he really got kind of jerked around. Like the sets were already made, the script wasn't there, but he had to do that. Yeah, now I'm blanking on it. The Doctor Strange, yes, too.
Multiverse,
Multiverse
whatever.
of Madness. I could not think of the subtitle for that.
What the hell is it?
Well, the same thing happened. Edgar Wright he talked them into making Ant-Man, and he was supposed to direct it, and he walked away from it because there was
I want
too
to see
many-
what he was gonna do.
do.
That would have been such a cool Ant-Man. But
I'm with
fair
you.
enough.
I'm with you. And he got his credit. He got his credit for writing and being an executive producer, but he walked away from it. So it depends. Sorry, Dice, you've been quiet for a while.
I've just been listening. I'll throw another example, perhaps, kind of sort of in there, as far as this is concerned. I always bring this up because I wouldn't say it pisses me off, but
You're going to bring Phantom of the Bride up, so help me.
Phantom of the Who?
Phantom of the Paradise, excuse me. Phantom of the Bride. What?
Phantom
Here, I
of the
just
Who
made my
now?
own movie.
It's a sequel. Wow.
Yeah.
No, Phantasm 2,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Because Don Coscarelli, yeah, he did pretty well with Phantasm. Well enough to get studio executive attention from Universal, and they gave him a bigger budget so he could do more. However, they said, you're not going to do this, or this. Oh, also, those actors you had in the original? Yeah, no, we don't want them. So, to his credit, he did fight back and got a little bit of what he wanted, but it's not quite what he wanted. So every sequel after that, he said, fuck this, I'm doing it my way. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Troy brought up favorite example of a director denouncing their movie is American History X. Tony Kaye tried to sidestep Alan Smithy and go with directed by Humpty Dumpty. Yes, that story is quite interesting. Apparently, Edward Norton, for all intents and purposes, was basically the director of that movie. So it's an interesting story if you want to learn something about a bizarre production.
There's a few of his movies that have kind of turned out that way,
Yeah.
unbeknownst to the guy hired as the director.
Mm.
But he has some amazing performances.
He does. He does. And that movie, I think, is quite good. So it's unfortunate that nobody wants to take credit for that. And that's kind of what I was talking about. It's a happy accident where I'm not affiliated with this. Oh, because it's up for an Oscar. Not that it was, but oh,
Oh well, hey.
can you find Humpty Dumpty, please? But yeah, we're here talking about games.
Yeah, sorry if I sidetracked us to
No,
movies
I think
and
it was
stuff.
me more than anything.
I have to shoehorn the Marvels into everything. 'Cause that's what I do. It just seemed apropos because it's somebody kind of denouncing their work to an extent that they're allowed to, and then we just happened to mention Candyman a few moments earlier, and maybe that's the connection I made in my brain. But it's not a one for one.
It's the
It's
flow,
not
it's
like
fine.
this person did a horrible thing, so can we look at this work the same? It's just, I don't know. It makes me wonder how much any individual has control over one of these giant, I don't know what you'd call it, like big business movies like the Marvels or any of these Disney products. Like, it's not exactly the same as like one of these A24 films that gets bought up or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I wonder if the big games are the same way. If it's not designed by a committee as well.
Right. Again, my favorite overly used phrase, case by case basis. Not everybody deserves to be in a generalized bucket, but unfortunately, that's the way it works. So either of you, do you really feel like games will be affected one way or another due to this recent stink?
I don't think so. I'm not sure if this would convince everyone from stopping the use of like consultants, and I'm not sure that they should be stopped. Again, if it is for authenticity, like hell yeah. It seems like it's definitely taking a hit on Sweet Baby Inc. So I think they might not be as prominent in this category, if you will, but there's tons of consulting firms, and who's to say that they're not just going to close under that name, open under another name? There are a bunch of, yeah, exactly. So
Right.
it might change in small things, but I think the idea that they exist, the consultants, they are there for a real reason. Like if you want to go with authentic representation, like if we're going to do like a samurai game, like, don't just make it up. Like do look into the time period and try and make things as authentic as possible. I think people would enjoy that, but
This character looks like this because it's cool.
yeah. So I don't know. But maybe I'm being pessimistic that this isn't going to change a ton, other than I think this company now fell from prominence.
Yeah. And that's due to people being loud and ridiculous.
I kind of agree with Gray. I don't think there's going to be much. Maybe they'll try something of a trial run, like some bigger companies will try to do it in a tone deaf way, and it just won't work for anybody. Which would then mean that they're just going to go back to what they were doing as usual, because that's the best thing that they can predict. Shall we say that's what the general audience wants. And the only thing I can say, as far as from my perspective and probably other members of, say, the LGBTQ, is I don't understand why some people are saying that if it's not something that a straight white man can relate to, they won't play it. Hello, as, again, a non-binary person for my entire life, I am used to looking at everything and finding one character, at the very least, that I can relate to. Rarely is it ever someone who identifies in the exact same way as I do. So I'm used to looking for somebody, regardless of gender, race, whatever.
Yeah, there's something that Emily told me that I didn't realize I had that mentality until I heard it verbally out of somebody else's mouth. But Emily said she would go to an LGBTQ community that, they would meet up at a bar or something. And she said the only thing that I had in common, I'm paraphrasing, mind you, the only thing that I had in common with these people was who I liked to have sex with. And, other than that, we didn't have much in common. And I was like, shit, I never thought of it like that. Granted, I'm the default as far as whoever's being targeted in certain arenas is concerned, that straight white man is kind of the default as far as target audience is concerned. But I've never thought of, well, not never. I am chemically neutered, so a lot of antidepressants have made my thirst for physical relations a little bit lower than a lot bit lower than say myself at 17. And the importance is certainly
natural hormones probably had a
sure
drop off between the time. But yes,
right. So like what was important to me at 17 is a lot different than now. And even then, I mean, listen, if a video game character is attractive or whatever, that's cool, but it wasn't the most important thing. Even though in the real world, the most important thing to me was, getting certain parts of my body touched. But it not
consensually,
right? Of course, or paid for, whatever. Which is consent.
It's consensual. Whatever, if it's free or not.
But to kind of double down on that sentiment, I don't ever think of people as sexuality. Like that's not the most important thing, or race or anything like that. I tend to be drawn to people that are funny. We have some things in common, not just one thing, and it's where we like to put our private parts. Like that's people who only look for that one aspect. You can get that, but what else is pleasurable about that situation? I mean, some people. I don't know. I'm going to talk myself into a ditch here, but
phrasing. I don't know when you're talking about we like to place our private parts in the same. What else is pleasurable? I don't know. Maybe that's where I got lost in your analogy.
Phrasing. You're right.
What draws you to?
Right. I'm trying to avoid saying pretty heavy things, and what I'm doing is making myself look worse. So whatever your
empathy,
whatever your preference is, that's one thing, dating or whatever, but that doesn't inform every decision you make. So
one would hope not.
I hope
it would be like being a 17-year-old perpetually, like
right.
Sadly, that does kind of take over.
I think
some people are there.
I think that's part of it. 17-year-old me would probably be very, very different and argue certain things. And again, everything's kicked up when you're a teenage boy. That's when boys get their peak. Everything's firing on all cylinders then, and it's the worst time for a teenager because I've said this. Yeah, I've said this numerous. Yeah, you look the worst. You are the worst.
You feel the worst.
Yeah.
You're over here going, why?
And you think the worst. Sadly, just my brain was not working. It was solo focused, and
I do not sponsor anything from my teenage years, and I would hate to go back and
I don't
do it
know
again.
them.
Right. I don't know right. I don't know very many people that are like, oh man, let me be my 16-year-old self again because that was the best.
I did my time.
Well, right. It's like who I mean, other than Al Bundy, who looks back to their high school time and is like, yeah, that was the best.
If you're basing your entire life around how great your high school life was and your peak was then, I've got really bad news for you. Severely bad news.
Right. So I've talked myself into an absolute circle, and I apologize, but I guess the long and short of it is, one thing that you're into shouldn't inform everything that you do.
Be a layered person. Have depth.
Right.
Empathy, like I said, very important. Try it.
I mean, labels are apparently so important to these loud minorities. and not minorities, mind you, the people who are the vocal minority, should I say. I would be troubled to spend time with these people because
It's very shallow.
right.
Get your feet barely wet.
I don't think labels should have that much power. And if you're like, I am a straight white male, this is my lifestyle, blah blah blah. Really?
Who's
Do you
going to
need to
inform all of the Twitter bros?
right? Do you need to tell everybody that whenever you go somewhere? Like, oh, as a straight white male, I feel like this bread sucks. What?
Is it because it's pumpernickel?
Right. Well, yeah, I've taken the longest route possible to explain.
Well, I
nonsense.
think it's interesting that you mentioned that as well, because a lot of the people who are this loud minority, if you will, at least on one side, so to speak, will complain. I speak from experience. Will complain about, oh, look at this snowflake with pronouns in their bio and the pride flag. Yeah, I'm not coming up to you saying, hi, they, them.
Right.
But you're going to be over here telling me that you're a proud American who is, who supports, and happens to be white and straight, and I have...
Are they wearing the same color hat that I am? Is it?
Yes, some of them
Just a
can be.
guess. Just a guess.
Yes. Their favorite color is red.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes the white and blue. And they have to tell you about their family and their bio. They're a proud father or mother of... That's
Gun
great.
owner.
I didn't need to know that you had crotch goblin children and how many times you got to have sex. I didn't need to know that. Just like you apparently don't want to know whom I happen to be or not be sleeping with. So I'm seeing a bit of a problem here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, something like this that I mentioned, the hat color, it kind of stains your view of something. I forgot. I think
Tainted,
we were
if you
watching,
will.
Right. We were watching an old Sopranos episode. I mean, the newest one is from 2007. And somebody was there with a red hat. And I was like,
And immediately we went, ah!
That's exactly like, I was like, oh, a Trump. Oh, wait, no, that wasn't a thing yet. So
No,
like
this is before.
you look back and it's like, oh, wait, Fred Durst wasn't a MAGA guy, but he has the hat all the time. So it's just, the color of hat has kind of,
Well, there's unfortunately, certain visual red flags, shall we say, that even I will
Motifs?
catch myself. I'll walk through a store and I will see the back of someone wearing a baseball cap that happens to be red, and I'm going, please, no, please. Please.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of like parody ones on that have nothing to do with it. But even then, like kind of your go-to is, well, my go-to, I guess I shouldn't speak for everybody else, is like, oh, of course, oh, no, that's make comedy great again, apparently. I don't know. There's many takes on that.
right. And I mean,
I think make Dogecoin great again was
Was
one
it
of those
ever?
that was around quite a bit.
MDGA.
To the moon again. I just know that's one that I've seen in random circles I've run in before.
Yeah. Well, it's unique how somebody can kind of hijack something and taint or stain the way somebody interprets that thing forever, because that thing on the German flag, that used to be
It was Buddhist.
a sign
wasn't it?
for, right. And good luck, I think, was like the,
It's a little different. It's flipped or something, but yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But
Peace
you can't put that on anything now and
No.
have it be about peace.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Right. Right. All right. So I didn't realize we were going for nearly 3 hours without Cody.
Are the Oscars over?
Oh, yeah. Are they? They
Probably
should be.
not.
Oh, wait. Yeah, no, you're
Well,
right.
it depends
It's the
on
Oscars.
how long they're keeping the speeches too. But yeah,
They never,
But,
they never keep it tight.
it sounded like you were going to wrap it up, so let me just interrupt you. No, I'm just kidding. But Larry David did a really good job in like the last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm with kind of putting a different spin on that MAGA hat. I really kind of dug his kind of take on it. That's made me look at the hat a little differently. But
Oh, he wears it as
yeah.
repellent, doesn't he? Or something like
yes,
that?
and
Right.
it kind of works well.
Right.
Yeah, good times.
Well, apparently
he likes
all
to be
I need to
alone,
wear
so
is
you,
like
you
a
have the hat.
rainbow.
Nobody else sitting near you.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
works on both sides.
It would also
wear a
work.
rainbow or a red hat.
Yeah, it used to be about unicorns and leprechauns, and apparently it's about something else now. Who knew? No.
Yeah. Gray, what do you got coming up on your channel?
Not a ton. I have this video I've been working on forever. It should be released one day. So good times. And
Look
then
for that.
Be on the lookout a day.
I do hope to have a stream with you in the near future talking about AI comedy because that seems like an interesting thing that a comedian might have some feelings about. So good times. But
my take may surprise some people.
I gotta be honest, I was surprised by some of them. I've heard worse jokes at open mics, so looking forward to your takes on it. But that's about it. Other than that, every Thursday, generally Charles is there as well on That Darn Kiddos channel. There's the Thinkers. That's about all I have scheduled. But hell yeah.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for being here. Dice put the
Thanks for inviting me.
Dice. That is the channel. If you want to check us out talking about real stuff. Perhaps a special guest this week. So go ahead and subscribe and be on the lookout. Or watch the back catalog. It's plenty of hours upon hours of interesting conversations and debates and so on and so forth. Although not very debate, bro. Let me not mislead
we're trying
anybody.
to not yell at each other, but I know I've been heated on there before. So none of us are above it. But we're trying to be cordial and see both sides on issues and kind of discuss them, but the main idea is provoking thought.
Yeah,
sometimes they come up.
Well, I mean, as long as everybody's of the understanding that once the discussion's over, everybody's fine. It's much like when people get a kick out of Brian and I going at each other's throats. Granted, we do it about fiction. It's a little bit different, but it's still the same thing. Everybody's back every week, and holding a certain amount of respect for everybody. So, it's what conversations should strive to be.
As someone with a younger brother, I understand. Only I get to talk to him like that.
Dice, speaking of which, what do you got coming up?
Let's see. I just recently... They disappeared, man. I don't know. What do you mean I'm not wearing glasses? Hold on. What? Context. Modern Marvels are amazing. It's great. I can see. But I just recently uploaded my facts video for My Bloody Valentine 1981. We're late on the Valentine's Day thing. I'm so sorry. But hey, who's surprised by it at this point?
The single audience will love it.
I know. I mean, really.
Don't remind me.
Yeah. What's that? We're going to see couples getting slaughtered? Perfect. More, please. And then perhaps sometime after that, the remake. I'll be working on that. But perhaps sometime in between. Patrons right now have access to my full review of Lisa Frankenstein. And not too long from now, I'm sure everybody else will be able to see it. Other than that, what do we have? We're still trying to work on the brain mucus, I swear. I'm trying to get people in line here. It's so difficult to work with these talents, I'm telling you. I know, there's a list. There's a fucking list. Other than that, what's going on? Shit.
Don't plug the other thing. Please don't plug the other thing. Oh, it happened already.
Down
Never
to
mind.
one plug.
Never mind. Sorry.
No? Oh, okay. No. What other thing? Huh?
Sorry.
I believe the 15th is what we're hoping for as far as over
TCM?
on Sweet
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, no?
Yes, the remake.
TCM.
Yeah, TCM. I had to think. So sorry. People
It's
are
all right.
abbreviating
I only
things.
speak in letters.
That was postponed because Celise got the big C again, unfortunately.
Chainsaw?
Yes. She'll be fine, don't worry. But that is still happening. It'll be the 15th, I believe. That's what we're aiming for. If for some reason that doesn't happen, I'm sure she will let everybody know and I'll pass that along. Obviously, I'm going to be there. So, aside from that, the only other big thing that I know is going to be happening, hopefully, is on the 18th. It will be my channel's 10th anniversary.
Oh.
So there will be a live stream, of course.
Congrats. That is awesome.
Hey.
I don't think of There are many things I've done for 10 years, but that is really awesome. Congrats.
I'm shocked myself. I'm like, what do you mean? A decade? Why?
Yeah. So let me. I shouldn't lampshade. See, now I'm using the terminology. There's a stream that, speaking of spooky, Dice, Spooky, myself, and Ken Sledge of Sledgehammer Horror. We did a desensitization. Yeah, my tongue's just quitting today.
Other words.
Yeah,
Other
horror
words.
and desensitization.
Desensitization. Fuck! It's contagious.
See? There's reason why the stream is
No
down.
feeling of.
Yeah, so I took it down because there was a copyright thing on it. So I need to alter the stupid intro that I did. That will be back up. I'll probably edit it. Whenever I fly back home, I might tweak that on the flight because it's 8 hours. And that will be back up. So I just didn't want people to be like, what happened to that? Right. There's copyright stuff in there that people claimed, and I'm not giving them.
That sucks, because that was a
penny.
really cool stream. There was a lot of interesting thoughts.
I agree, and I'd like to make it a little bit cleaner too. So there's that. So if I can go back and just make it a little bit tighter, look a little bit prettier. It's the one thing I can't stand about live streams. That's why I try to do stuff like this and produce if I can. But to each his own. But sorry, guys, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to not make it seem like it was some inside joke here.
No, I think that's about it. I'm trying to think if there was any other thing. I don't think so.
Well, there's no firm date yet, but we're gonna finish off the third one. Fuck.
Yeah, the Beyond Reanimator
Right.
is coming. Troy, I see you. It is coming. And then, shit, I don't know, sometime after that. We'll space it out, of course. But Celise of Sweet and Spooky has expressed a lot of interest in whenever I might be introducing CP to Society and the Phantasm franchise. I don't think she's familiar with the Phantasm franchise either, so it would be
You
quite
aren't
a
familiar
fun
with the
little experience.
Phantasm?
No.
No.
Ooh,
See?
do yourself a favor. Enjoy it. The orb is awesome.
This is why I have to fix things. I have a list. I've made a list on Letterboxd. It's a whole thing.
Speaking of corresponding lists, somebody asked me about the Gorgon, so we
Oh, yes.
should touch base on that.
I wanted to do that, well, whenever, really. If we wanted to wait till, after Reanimator, absolutely. I don't want to not do that.
We could even pre-record it too. It's not that well, whatever. This is conversations that could be had offline. So
Either way.
yeah. Thank you, Gray. Thank you, Dice. Cody was supposed to be here, but under the weather, and he checked in for a minute, and we appreciate and we love Cody for that. Everybody's channels will be here if you're watching it in the future, and hopefully no news develops, and we'll tuck this away for now. So it's not loading. So now I look like an idiot. And goodbye, everyone.
Question mark.
Or not. Is there any sort of closing?